Morning, morning, morning. Morning, Roxanne. Morning. Thank you for my brooms, as always. Margaret Thomas, morning. Dwayne Peters, morning, sir. Wazid, beautiful Sunday morning to you as well. Maureen Washington Smith, morning to you. Actually, Maureen, a lot of the people I've encountered on my walkabout um, subscribe to my podcast. So I've met a lot of people who say, they're happy to finally meet me in person and so on. Um, they don't miss an episode. So, but yes, I'm encouraging them to also encourage others to participate in it. So yeah. Rockman Gangadine, morning. Arlene Lewis, morning. Arlene Annette Baird, morning to you. Pauline Buckmeyer, all the way from Florida. Morning, Pauline. Shelton Lewis, morning, sir. Cyril Mayas, morning to you. Lisa Burton, morning, Lisa. Camilla Dean, morning. Let's see what Roxanne's saying there. Staying next to chicken. Roxanne says Kamala is getting more unhinged in her statements. Desperation. Indeed. So true, Roxanne. Leon Graves, morning, sir. Hyacinth Richardson, morning to you. Pamela O'Connor, Ruben Rogers, morning, guys. Kenneth Gabriel, morning. Denise Bramble, morning, Denise. J Dimple 66, morning. Rude Keith Joseph, the Patriot, morning to all of you. Sandra Rogers, morning, Sandra. Riri, Juju Bernard, morning. Adaremi X. Adaremi says, is desperation or mad she going mad? What's that saying? Whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad? Kate Borrell, morning to you. Anthony Joseph, Theophilus Lockheed, morning, sir. Leon Joseph says, right, yes. Donna Walcott, Terence Lynch, Marge France, morning to you. Shah, morning, Shah. Kevin King, morning, sir. Kathleen 67289, morning. Bless one. Patty Kutu, morning, Patty. Althea, morning to you. Shulan Budi, morning. Lynn Arundel, morning. And Angela Kati. Let's see who we have on Facebook. Morning, Diane Charles, Alicia Alman, De Roche, morning. Claire Carrington, morning, Claire. Joycelyn Smallwhite, morning, Joycelyn. Morning, Marva. Jennifer Dorset, morning to you. Angela Joseph Richards, morning. Anis White, morning, Anis. Adriana Alexis, morning. Let's see. System keep jumping, all right. Claire Irish, morning, Claire. Margaret Colleen Mota Davis, morning. Is it Kieran or Kyron James? Morning to you. Carol Myers, morning, Carol, on this sunny Sunday morning. Sarah Richards, Joyce Joseph, morning to you guys. Alison Boyce, morning, Alison. Marilyn Wanza Cloud, morning. Ian Michael Clouden, morning, sir. Alison Samuel, morning, Alison. Stephen Martell, morning, sir. Dexter James. Dexter says, let the facts be told unfiltered if need be. You'll give away trouble. Oh, Lord. Gemma Alexander, Gail Rambali, morning. Cheryl Seeley, Pammy Gray, Ashlyn Robertson, morning, guys. Judy Brown, morning to you. Denise Cummings, morning, Denise. Wendell Eversley, morning, sir. Wendell says, talking to you with your seat already. Wendell, from your lips to God says, but we're doing the work. We're doing the work, and we intend to intensify from this week going forward. All right, so all of the distractions of Carnival are behind us, and so, yeah. Ruth Frontin. Denise, all right. Helen Batiste, morning to you. BC Gray, morning. Angela Joseph Richards, let me get this here. Right, so let's jump into it. It's already 11:20. Althea, Lisa Mark, morning. Slick Money Grip. Let's turn this off here. Turn this off here. Shadley Jimenez, morning. Jennifer Nicholas, morning to you. Truth Speaker 27, morning to all of you guys. Helen Faria, Trotman, morning to you. All right, so many things has happened over the last few days. Interesting developments. We see that UNC has been able to name one more candidate. Yeah, taking the time. In fact, I think David Lee said that was it David Lee or the political leader? I can't remember which one of them said that they will release the names of their candidates when the time is right. But of course, the longer that you take to release the names of these candidates, is the less time that they have out on the field, less time they have on the campaign to go out and meet the people. So I don't understand that strategy. It's the same strategy that they utilized in 2020, and it didn't work for them. It's interesting that they decided to release the name of their candidate for La Hoqueta Talparo to challenge Foster Cummins, who happens to be a former PNM member. In fact, based on what has been reported, that he was the former chairman of the constituency, PNM chairman of the constituency, and whatever would have resulted in his decision to depart and to join the other side. I mean, to go from the PNM to go across to the UNC, after spending years in the PNM, dedicating time, effort, resources, whatever it is, leading the charge for the PNM in La Hoqueta Talparo, you suddenly decide, well, we don't know if it's suddenly, because the political leader, Prasad Bisasa, is saying that this guy has been working with them for a number of years. So, and he has said, well, he will tell all on on a meeting that they're supposed to be having in Brazil, where is the 17th of March? Yeah. So we wait with bated breath to hear what it is that he has to say. But nevertheless, we saw in the news last night that he's out on the campaign trail, ably assisted by Jolene John, who would have been his predecessor for that same seat in 2020. And notwithstanding her prominence, notwithstanding the stove and the fridge and the furniture set and so on that would have been given, she was not able to succeed in winning the seat. But for some reason, they seem to think that Mr. Watts would have a better chance of wresting that seat this time around. He's still a relative unknown as far as I'm aware. Perhaps he's known to some of the people in the area, but on a wider scale, I don't hear people asking, who is he? Who is he? Where did he come from? And apparently that only applies to one side. So it was reported that he has within his camp two of Maxi Coffey's brothers. Now, as far as I know, Maxi Coffey is still PNM, and I would imagine that these two individuals would have supported their brother when he was the candidate, when he was the MP. So it is safe to assume that they too were PNM. But I guess, there are some people for whom, I don't want to say a loyalty, party allegiance means nothing. So in situations like that, you're forced to ask yourself, so why were you supporting the PNM? The PNM is diametrically opposed to the UNC. For the simple reason that we know the UNC, what they stand for, what they offer. They are hoping to win the election, not based on their competence and their ability to do a better job. They're hoping to win the election by trying to exploit what they see or what they consider to be shortcomings or failures of the PNM, the current administration. Kamla Prasad Bisasa cannot stand on a platform and say, well, my party, we have done this over the last 10 years to win the confidence of the people. In fact, what they have done for the last 10 years has even solidified why they should not serve another term in office, at least not with this current bunch that they have, and that is the bunch going forward. And what do you do when, It speaks volumes when you have already screened. Well, they said they finished screening, so it's just a matter now for them to assess the candidates and make a decision. But when you are vacillating on seats to name a candidate for a seat like Kuva North, a seat like Oropuch East, where Rudal Munilal has been the candidate or the MP of long standing. I mean, it should be very simple. I'm saying these seats, if you have such confidence in these people, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to name them and say, well, okay, Rudal Munilal is the candidate for Oropuch East. If you're inclined to go back with Padarath, the same way you were able to name Saddam Hussein, why are you taking so long to name Munilal? Is it that you have doubts? That notwithstanding the fact that you claim that this matter with the EMBD is just PNM trying to paint all East Indians as thieves, is it that your financiers are seeing that, look, this man is a liability and putting him back and others like David Lee, like Padarath, people like Anil Ram, people like Ravi Ratiram, all of whom have several question marks over their heads. Well, David Lee had no question mark. David Lee have a charges on his head, right? And $1 million bail. But yet still you contemplating putting somebody like that back as candidate. And perhaps if perchance you were to win, to make him a minister. To make him a minister. A man who is out on bail for fraud, misbehavior in public office, conspiracy. And you have people who like to criticize, oh, the PNM corrupt and the PNM this and the PNM that. But you are happy to be represented by a man who is on $1 million bail for fraud. So what happens if that case comes to heal during the term? Let's say they win. And he's sitting as a minister and the case is heard and he's found guilty. What happens then? What happens then? I find this case taking too long. That should have been a simple case that should have been dealt with a long time ago. We have had people in other jurisdictions who have committed crimes after that. They've been apprehended, charged. The matter has come before the court. It has been dealt with, and these people serving time behind bars. And yet still, this matter, since when, how long now? Almost 3 years now, David Lee got charged. And up to now, that matter still has not gone anywhere. But we have Calypsonians who want to come and sing songs and criticize the PNM and Dr. Rowley because people ain't get locked up. So we vex because people didn't get locked up and people ain't make a jail. The Prime Minister can't lock up anybody. He cannot incarcerate anybody, right? He can't convict anybody. All the government can simply do is to provide the evidence that they have and let process take its course. That's it. They can't do nothing else. So when it is that people ain't make a jail or things happen, people get arrested, but they didn't, the case is yet to be called and all of this thing. How you can blame the government for that? What you want Dr. Rowley to do? The same people who say, no, Rowley only interfering with the independent institutions in the country. You're complaining on one side, he interfering with the independent institutions, but then you're advocating what? For him to pick up the phone and call the Chief Justice and tell the Chief Justice, here, why you need to expedite this matter? This taking too long in the court. Do what you need to do. You want him to do that? So how could you be against what you claim to be interference? And then on the other hand, advocating that he should interfere. And then what? That making any sense? Making sense to them. So I wouldn't comment on the calypsos if only because of where I sit as a Tuco judge, albeit I didn't judge the seniors, but I have to limit my my discourse with respect to that. All right, because as judges, we are required to sign certain documents that binds us or limits us in terms of what we could speak about and the like. Okay, so yeah, apparently the tabulator forgot that, but anyway, that's a discussion for another time. Before I go there, let me read this, right? Because some things tend to go unnoticed, unspoken of. But some things jump out at me that I feel I need to talk about. There's a Guardian article dated 3 days ago by Anthony Wilson entitled, 4 banks report $4.78 billion in profit for 2024. That's almost just short of $5 billion in profit, not revenue, profit. So after we take into consideration the revenue and all the expenses and so on, almost $5 billion in profit. 4 commercial banks headquartered in Port of Spain declared total audited after tax, not before, after tax, profits of $4.78 billion in their 2024 financial years. The 4 banks, Republic Hope Financial Holdings Limited, RBC Financial Caribbean Limited, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, and Scotiabank TT, reported total after-tax profits of $4.25 billion in 2023, indicating that their profitability increased by 12.47% in 2024. One of the reasons for the stronger profitability of the banking system last year was that the banks provided more credit facilities to their customers. We're talking here loans and we're talking credit cards, right? As the Minister of Finance would have told us a couple of months ago, that the banks would have increased the amount of credit cards on issue by 50%. 50%. And all of these credit cards have a US dollar element to it. So you can use it to make US dollar purchases. And every US dollar purchase that you make, the banks have to find the money to satisfy those remittances, right? Okay. So when we talk about demand, and certain people, former ministers of energy, want to make it seem like the only challenge with the forex is the issue of supply. Supply is down, and that is why we have a problem. But when he was Minister of Energy, there was a supply issue as well. And the business sector in particular was complaining about their inability to get foreign exchange, the same way we have it today. But the difference between then and now is that then oil prices were much higher. Then production was higher, oil and gas was higher, and prices were higher. So they were in receipt of more US dollars, more foreign exchange than this administration has been privy to in the last 9.5 years. But yet still they had challenges in satisfying the demand for foreign exchange. But with this administration, lower prices, lower production, lower output, they expected us, and higher demand, because the amount of credit cards in issue today is much higher than was in issue between 2010 to 2015. More people holding credit cards, more people are able to make foreign purchases, and there is also an increase in terms of the different opportunities and options available to people to make foreign purchases. So a lot of these foreign commercial entities that today eating up a lot of the foreign exchange didn't exist 2010 to 2015. I don't think you had Sheen back in 2010 to 2015, which seems to be very popular. And then you have Temu and all of these different things. And with the proliferation of businesses now, Alibaba is also very, very popular as well. Persons are making more purchases through Amazon and all these different vendors who didn't exist between Amazon was there. But in terms of the offerings, there are more people selling stuff now on Amazon than existed 10, 15 years ago, right? So people have more access to stuff. And even when you make online purchases, when you compare the price, what you would pay, even with the 7% online tax that they complain about, a lot of people will tell you it's still cheaper than what I would pay if I were to purchase the same item in Trinidad. So all of that is contributing, but they don't ever have that discussion, right? So the banks are able to make that type of supernormal profits that they weren't making between 2010 to 2015. When we are being told that under Kamala Persad-Bissessa's economy was the best it has ever been, right? Everything was great. The economy was booming under her, but yet still combined, the banks weren't reporting them kind of profits, after-tax profits, when she was prime minister. The same banks was existing, but we weren't seeing headlines like these, right? When the economy was great. But now, according to them, Rowley and the PNM mash up the economy. The economy is the worst it's ever been. It's on the brink of collapse. It is free falling. All these things we keep hearing from that side. But yet, apparently, the banks didn't get that memo. That you're not supposed to be declaring these types of profits when the economy is on the brink of collapse. When the economy is the worst it's ever been. When the government has destroyed the economy. What really going on here? What really going on here? Are they printing money? Because if the economy is in a mess and citizens don't have money, how is it that you all are able to make these types of profits? How? So we keep seeing empirical data that makes liars out of these people who keep saying the economy is in collapse and the economy is the worst it's ever been. When we have the president of the San Fernando Chamber of Commerce telling us more new businesses are opening in San Fernando than businesses are closing. And it's not just in San Fernando. Imagine Chaguanas is a UNC stronghold. And the mayor of Chaguanas quite recently had to speak about the issue, the need for them to be able to treat with the traffic situation in Chaguanas, because Chaguanas is becoming a booming commercial center. New businesses are opening in Chaguanas. Chaguanas is attracting commercial development in an economy that is suffering. So how come these businesses and all of this development wasn't taking place between 2010 to 2015 when the economy was booming and everything was great? How come? So how is it that in Chaguanas you all are seeing in the last 5 years, at the very least, or less, an increase in commercial activity throughout the borough of Chaguanas that you were not seeing between 2010 to 2015? But yet still, the very people who controlling that constituency since whenever, even except when Jack Warner took it from them in 2013 for that brief period of time, they are the ones telling you that things bad. Apparently, the business people who opened new businesses in Chaguanas, they didn't get a memo either. Hey, what are you doing? All you making me look bad. We telling people that the economy in a mess. It is collapsed. How will you could be coming and opening businesses in Chaguanas of all places, which is UNC? I just asking the question. I'm going to just continue to wrap this up quickly. So I was reading, one of the reasons for the stronger profitability of the banking system last year was that banks provided more credit facilities to their customers. In its November monetary policy report, the central bank observed that in September 2024, credit to the private sector recorded an increase of 7.9% year-on-year, up from a rise of 6.7% in April of 2024. So we are seeing consistent increases year on year. Right? So it wasn't a flash in the pan. Last year there was an increase. The year before there was an increase. So there's been consistent increases taking place in an economy that is supposed to be dead. Over the period, double-digit growth rates were observed for consumer and business lending, outpacing the expansion in real estate mortgage lending. Let me repeat that. Over the period, double-digit growth rates were observed for consumer and business lending. So businesses are borrowing money. What are they borrowing money to do? Not to expand. And you know what they're doing? They are borrowing money to expand without the government cutting their tax rate in half, as Prasad Bisesa has been promising to do. Because she says, if you cut corporate tax rates in half from 30 and 35% that it is now, down to about 18% or so, that the savings that these businesses would realize in taxes, that they would use this money to expand their businesses. That's what she's saying. But businesses, notwithstanding their current tax rates, clearly are seeing opportunities. Clearly there is demand, and they are borrowing money to open new outlets. And what is to be noted as well, a lot of these businesses are not looking to rent space in malls and the like, or to rent buildings. A lot of them are constructing their own buildings. They're borrowing money and putting up their own buildings because they're certain that they expect these businesses to continue to perform and to boom. If you're not sure, it makes sense to rent. So if it is things don't pan out, you just shut down the outlet and call it a day. But when you have such confidence in the economy that you go in and borrow money from the bank to actually put up a structure, and you're seeing it all over the country. Wendy's is back, right? Wendy's is back, and they put up a new building in Diego Martin by Four Roads there, next to is it Churches? I think Churches is also expanding as well. On Tumpuna Road, they just built another Wendy's outlet. Yeah, they rented. They built next to is it Domino's, right? So you're seeing commercial development taking place across the country. More pronounced, of course, in the PNM constituencies that the UNC keeps saying, oh, she's the worst and the poorest of the constituencies is under PNM control. But you're seeing all of this development taking place in PNM control constituencies. Why? Why is that? I just asking. But anyway, see you next time for Shagonas, of course. A pickup in activity and favorable financing conditions fuel businesses borrowing over the period. In September 2024, business lending grew by 11.8% year on year, up from 9.5% 5 months earlier. Commercial bank lending to businesses recorded an increase of 11.9%, while non-banks recorded an increase of 10.6% over the period. So that includes the other finance houses as well. So it's not just the banks receiving an increase in demand for loans from businesses. In the 2023 Financial Stability Report, the central bank noted that a post-pandemic recovery, which was marked by a pickup in household and business debt. In particular, the debt appetite was boosted by reduced economic uncertainty. Reduced economic uncertainty. So people not uncertain about the economy. Low interest rates, improvements in the labor market. So while it is the other side that wants to come into office, unemployment is on the rise and people are on work, and here it is that they are telling you here that there has been improvement. Let me get it here. Right. So where did it go? So, right. Low interest rates, improvements in the labor market, and generally favorable financial conditions. The banking sector credit to households and businesses, the largest component of private sector debt, expanded in 2023, surpassing pre-pandemic growth rates. So that means that in the last, between 2023 to now, the amount of credit that the banks have been issuing has been greater than what existed before COVID. Before COVID, when things were supposedly better. It goes on to say the Financial Stability Report in footnotes said economic uncertainty can be defined as a situation in which individuals and firms do not have perfect knowledge about the current state of the economy. The Trinidad and Tobago Economic Policy Uncertainty Index reduced to moderate levels in 2023 compared to elevated levels in 2022. Household debt comprises credit extended to households, including open accounts, personal loans, credit card facilities, mortgage advances, installment sales transactions, and lease agreements. Let me see. But the report of increased bank profitability comes amid ongoing concern about the inequitable distribution of foreign exchange by TNT's authorized dealers of foreign exchange and calls by business groups to address the issue. Let me see, is there anything else I need to read here? In his discussion and analysis of the group's 2024 result, Group President and CEO of Republic Financial Holdings, Nigel Batiste, said the financial holding company recorded profit attributable to equity holders of the parent of $2 billion for the year ended September 30th, 2024, an increase of $255 million or 14.57% compared to the profit of $1.75 billion reported in the prior year. Those results reflected the returns from growth in the group's advances and investment portfolios and reduced credit loss expenses, said Batiste. So less people are defaulting on their loans. Right? Loan loss provision is down. So $2 billion attributable to equity holders. So instead of complaining about how much profit the bank's making, and I've told you all on numerous occasions, simple thing to do, go and open a brokerage account, try and see if you could buy some shares in these banks so that when they declare these profits, you could benefit from some of these profits. Right? A chunk of this Republic Bank profit, of course, goes to the NIF, because remember, the government is majority shareholder in Republic Bank, and they would have put their shares into NIF in exchange for the sale of the shares associated with those that were put into NIF. Right? I think the government was able to realize some $4 billion off of that transaction. And so the persons who would have invested in NIF would be receiving these profits attributable to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So all those of you who ignored the advice of the leader of the opposition who told you that NIF was a Ponzi scheme, in 2025, remember NIF came about in 2018. 7 years now and going strong. And every 6 months declaring dividends. But for those of you who chose to ignore, right, the advice, unsolicited advice of the leader of the opposition, you all have been smiling every 6 months for the last almost 7 years, right? Dividends would have been distributed last month, February, and the next tranche would be in August. For those of you who have good sense and chose to ignore the foolishness of the leader of the opposition. For those who bought into her folly, right, and who decided you weren't going to put your money in that, well, you could continue to sit by the wayside and lick your wounds for taking her foolish advice. And I wouldn't be surprised in the least if she probably owns some shares in NIF too. Not saying I don't know for a fact, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if we were to find out that she does in fact own some shares in the NIF. While she's telling all you, it's a Ponzi scheme and nobody to put your money in that and all of that foolishness. Instead, what was she advocating in 2020? Well, we will use the idle cash balances in the national NIB and unit trust. All you put all your little kakara. Say, me put in my money and no NIF. Kamlan says a Ponzi scheme. I'm going to put it in the unit trust. Right? She was talking about using the idle cash balances in the unit trust and the NIB to create an infrastructure fund. And for those of you who forget, it's in their manifesto going forward for 2025, right? In the National Economic Transformation Plan. So clearly it is something that she and her team are wedded to. They may not speak about it because they know the backlash it caused last time, but it's in black and white in their manifesto. So for those of you who inclined to, I've actually able to, I go and vote for you and say, vote for them. Vote for them. But when they go and tie up your money, remember these are the same people who leverage the Green Fund and so on to be able to borrow money between 2010. They did that, not the PNM. They were the ones when this administration came in and they were looking for money all how to be able to pay bills, to pay salaries, to pay pension, to pay public assistance, food card, and all of these different things, only to find that the Green Fund, and what's the other one, by the Business Levy Fund, all of that they leveraged, the unemployment fund, all them things, leveraged collateral, put up as collateral for overdraft, so that they could borrow money, so that Jawala could give them money. He wasn't telling them he go and turn off the tap. No, he didn't tell them I will turn off the tap. You only have money left for 3 days. Come. Where have us collateral? What else you could give me? Well, is everything leveraged? What else we had ever? Green Fund, what about the Green Fund? No, we don't leverage that already. You see us, the unemployment, yeah, leverage that too. What do you have? The only thing we could dip into really is the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, but you know the law it's strict. So we have to meet certain conditions to be able to dip into that. And right now, we have not satisfied those conditions. So that's the only thing we dip our hands in. And if we go to Parliament to try and change the law to be able to access it, we know we wouldn't get support from the PNM for that. So we need to do something. Yeah, what about the extra cost? I'll beat out that now. Yeah. Take it from 10 billion in 2009 to 33 billion. But we know the average citizen doesn't read the Auditor General's report, so they will never notice that. Unless, of course, the PNM speaks about it. And who spoke about it? Independent Senator Danis Mahabe, who at the time was the convener of the independent bench in a joint select committee in reviewing the Auditor General's report. And that stood out to him. And this man is an economist, right? An economist by profession. And I think at one time he was head of the economics department, I think in UE. And this stood out to him because he understood the significance of that and inquired, what went on here? 33 billion in overdraft? What the hell is that? How that happen? And the Minister of Finance had to say, well, you got to talk to Kamlan about that. You know? Talk to Larry Hawaii, the 11.625 billion man. Talk to he. Not me. We met it so when we came in. So they are the best people to ask that question. Have they ever answered? Do their supporters ever ask, well, what do they do with that money? That 23 billion, separate and apart from what you all would have taken in as revenue from the high oil prices and the gas prices and all of these different things, the sale of assets like First Citizens Bank shares and all of these different things. Yeah, the supporters like to talk about the PNM, sell out this and sell out that. But who was the one who sold FCB shares in the first place? All the money they got from these things, the sale of assets, what did they do with that? Where it went? What they spent it on? Because we know most of the infrastructural projects, the major infrastructural projects that they undertook were funded by loans from the Chinese. So what did they spend that money on? We know they took $7 billion from the Treasury to be able to fund the highway. And we know why they did that. So that there would be no oversight and they wouldn't have to account to anybody other than themselves. I'm spending my money. So if I waste it, if I thief it, and whatever, But if it is I took it as a loan, of course, I'd be accountable to the lending agency. And we didn't want that. We don't want that type of glaring oversight. Because had they done that, then they wouldn't have been able to remove the clause that allowed OAS to abscond with $1 billion. Right? Wouldn't have been able to do that. These are the people who are telling you they have the solutions to the country's economic challenges. Yes, we have economic challenges. All is not well. And that is why this government has been working assiduously over the last 9.5 years to boost this country's revenue position, understanding what the challenges are with our main source of income for the time being, the energy sector. Understanding that, look, we are a mature province, and over time we are going to see a decline in production, which also would result in a decline in revenues. But we are not prepared to be reckless like the UNC to run a $65 billion budget every year, most of which would be, well, not most of which, but a chunk of which would be funded by debt. And they keep, you see, the UNC could bomb the gum and talk about, oh, how much borrowing this government did. They took the foreign debt to 100 and something billion. But ask them, what was it when they came in? And they met it at low levels. And I keep telling you, Mr. Manning was able to build so many things without taking the exchequer account to permanent overdraft to the tune of 33 billion. And I keep asking the supporters of that party, pound for pound, I pull Dr. Rowley and his administration out of the equation for a moment. Look at the amount of money that Prasad Bisesa spent between 2010 to 2015. Yes, I'm going mad there. And compare what they built and what Mr. Manning built. Where is the UNC comparative to government campus? What did they build that could be compared to that? Where is the UNC comparative to the Port of Spain waterfront? What did they build that we could compare to that? What? The Grand Bazaar interchange. What did the UNC build that we could compare to that? The Aranguez interchange, which they met underway when they came in. Where is the UNC comparative to that? They talk about Manning and the PNM built how many thousands of houses, but they didn't distribute the houses. How many houses did the UNC build? Did you ever hear them talk about, well, we built 5,000, 10,000? It was only in, I think during the local government election, we heard Munilal come and say they built 8,000 houses. Julien, I think, or one of them, Kamla said they built 6. They couldn't even, the fact of the matter is, there should be no ambiguity with respect to these figures, right? If you build 6,000 houses, you build 6,000 houses. So for one person from the same party to say, well, we build 8,000, and another one say 6, and they can't seem to decide on the figures, tells me all they're lying. Because it ain't that hard. You should be able to count. Right? There's no need for any mistake there. Not that difficult. But then again, when you set aside when $800 million in houses cannot be found, when you have an external audit company brought in by the HDC to bring their books up to date because their accounts were behind from since 2013 and so on, and you bring them in now to clean up the things so that we could get up to date audited financials. And we are being told by this independent outside, so this is not in-house, this is an outside entity, I think it's KPMG, is saying that as part of our sampling, we need to go and see these houses. But based on where we are told these houses were supposedly built and supposed to be located at a cost of $800 million, we have not been able to even find one, not one, to fool us. Just well, hey, look one day or look right. So we went to a site and we saw. And so the auditors are asking, where are these houses? 800 million we're talking about here. Not 80 million, not 8 million, 800 million in ghost houses. Cannot be seen, cannot be found, cannot be touched. We have no such allegations being made against the Manning administration or the Rowley administration. But we have the supporters of the Yellow Party talking about fake oil and $100 million in fake oil, and we were back with 100 million. But here it is that we have the Minister of Housing came to the Parliament. This is not something that she said outside. This is not something she said on a platform. She came to the Parliament during the budget debate and confronted the man who was the Minister of Housing at the time, confronted the woman who was the Prime Minister at the time, and drew this issue to their attention, perhaps in the hope that one of them would be willing to stand up and say, well, such and such is the case. But Munilal was uncharacteristically quiet, and even though this matter would have made the front page of the newspaper to date, 2 years later, he still, well, almost 2 years later, he still is yet to make a comment on that. Jolene John, who was in charge of HTC at the time, has not made a comment on it. They choose to remain quiet, and what? The media reported on it once, and that was it. There was no further interrogation to get information from these people. Okay, could you assist us with this? The minister is saying this, that the auditors found this. We're talking $800 million here. This is nothing to sneeze at. Can you help us? Could you give us some insight? There is also a loan of some $180 million taken from the NLCB, which makes over $1 billion a year. We have money, but you see the kind of money that is generated by NLCB. And we are saying, could the minister is asking if you all could assist with that. To date, none of them have said anything about it. And the supporters, when you point that out and you bring it up to them, rather than hold their party accountable, the leadership of their party accountable, because all you care for the country and you want better for the country and betterment for the country. You know how many people that $800 million in housing could have helped? How many housing units that could have provided? We keep hearing we have a demand of over 100 and something thousand applications inside for government housing. That could have put a small dent in it. But no questions. We are asking, no, you're not interested in that. So Chris not asking questions on that. Winston Batchelor not asking questions on that. Dave, I forget, Sarup, I think it is. Mr. Yams, he not asking any questions on that. No, not interested in that. No comment. Forget that. But we want back 100 million though. As I keep saying under them, less is more. Less is more. But anyway, coming back to this issue, right? Let me just wrap this up here. I tend to digress, but well, I think I more or less covered what I wanted to cover there, right? So 4.78 billion in after-tax profits. So obviously, when we look at what was the pre-tax profits, is well over $5 billion that the banks would have made. And while this administration, from very early on in its incarnation, would have decided that they were going to ensure that the banks pay their fair share of taxes on these significant profits that they're making off of the citizenry, Prasad Bisasa is saying that she will reverse that. And she would do like her mentor up north, offer huge tax breaks to the wealthy. So we're going to reduce the corporate tax rate to 18% so that the owners of these businesses can keep more of their money. And I will fool you, the population, and tell you, well, yeah, well, you know what, when we do that, they will use that money to expand their businesses. That didn't happen up north in the first incarnation of the current president, and it certainly isn't happening now. What these companies do, they use these tax savings to engage in what is called, firstly, stock buyback. So they offer to purchase outstanding shares or a portion of the outstanding shares that is available on the market at a markup price. So if it is you holding shares in these companies, they're saying, come on, we're willing to buy it from you. What is the effect of that? The less shares you have outstanding is the less people you have to share the profits with. So the fewer hands that own or hold these shares is the more profits they will get. All right, so we're trying to see if we could reduce the amount of our shareholders, stop diluting the profits. Let us concentrate it in the hands of only a few of us so we could manipulate the system, because remember, the banking system is what is called an oligopoly. You just have a few players and they could come together and decide this is what we're going to do. All right, so when they decide they're going to increase the prime lending rate or whatever as the case may be, in response to what the central bank is doing and all of these things, they could do that. They protect each other because they all benefit from the same population, the same customers. A lot of people have accounts in several different banks, right? And nobody wants to be at a disadvantage to the other. So we come and we sit down together. There's BAT, the Banking Association of Trinidad and Tobago, and they make their decisions going forward. And that is what you do. You buy back outstanding shares so we can concentrate the profits into the hands of only a few who could be richer and richer. But when we talk about Rowley want to make the rich richer, I keep stressing, Rowley is not the one, and he will not be there. It is not the PNM that is advocated in black and white in the manifesto to cut corporate tax. No, we're not touching personal income tax. 25%, we're leaving it at that. We will leave it at 25%. So the average man now who's struggling to make a little 8,000 or 9,000 for the month. We're not going to touch the tax rate for them so that they could pay less taxes, so that they could take home more. No. You know who we consider first? The business community, who is already wealthy, who have big money, who own these shares and the dividends that they get matters not to them. They're just going in probably some account somewhere because they have enough money generating. The businesses making more than enough money, everything they need they have. So more profits is just what? It's just to build generational wealth. They invest in that dividend money into something else so that they could say, well, I have enough wealth to last 10 generations or 15 generations. Some will even have enough to last the current generation. Right? But that is what they're doing. UNC not advocating and why? You know why they will do that? Who informs their policy decisions? It's the same financiers, the same business owners who financing them and telling them, here, well, we could be willing to finance the party, you know what? Here, what we want. When all they come into power, you see that tax rate that really increased to 30% and 35%, all they need to do something about that. They need to bring that down. But we're paying too much money in tax that we could keep for ourselves and buy another house or buy another yacht or buy another Range Rover or whatever it is that they do with their monies, right? So they are the ones. So when they talk about PNM being in the back pocket of the 1%, PNM policy hurts the 1%, right? So I don't understand the logic. Increasing the tax rate from 25 to 30 to 35%, how did that help the 1%? If it is that we have one member of the 1% telling us that they represent only 1% of the population but control 95% of the wealth. He said that in that dinner with Anthony Bourdain, which would have given rise to the whole 1% talk since then. So therefore, if you're controlling 95% of the wealth, an increase in the tax rate takes more money from you. It don't put money in your pocket, so I'm confused. But the other party that is advocating cutting that, not take it back to 25, you know, take it back to 25 and reduce it by a further 7. That is good news to the heirs of the 1% and the rest of the business community. That 30 and 35 is not good news. Telling me that you are going to build more state-owned properties to house ministries and government departments, and you are going to be moving out of my buildings that you're currently renting. That is not good news to me as a 1%er. When I purchased this building and I renovated it, it was with the expectation and the hope that the government would rent it for decades. And so I would be guaranteed a certain amount of rent every month, $600,000, which is the average rate, $600,000 a month. You coming now to tell me that you want to build a new headquarters for the Ministry of Health and moving out of my building that you've been renting for the last how many decades? You coming to tell me that you are building a new headquarters for the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services on Tragedy Road on lands previously occupied by the government printry, and you're going to move out of 2 of my buildings that you're currently renting and have been renting for the past how many years? Why are you ain't talking about that? The buildings that the Social Development Ministry currently occupies belongs to Zamad Enterprises, which is Faris Al-Rawi's in-laws. You see the pace at which that building is going up on Tragedy Road opposite La Perouse Cemetery? If you haven't seen it, take a drive. Take a drive and see it. Just the other day, that was just open land there that they were, and in the space of months, I am surprised every time I drive there and I see how far that building has come. So soon enough, when it is completed, perhaps in the next few months or so, and they move in, Faris in-laws had to say bye-bye to that rent money. But the UNC keep telling you, Faris, and how much money Faris getting and whatnot. So why aren't you praising the government for what they're doing? Why? You all could have done that when you were in office between 2010 to 2015. Same thing. All you had more money. You could have built buildings. That space was there. Why didn't you build? There are other spaces you could have built too. But instead of doing that, what did you do? You renewed these leases. The same leases that you were complaining about in 2009 and during the 2010 campaign. Rather than end those leases, when they came up for renewal, all they say, well, yeah, what now? We were against that. We didn't want to break the lease, start to pay a penalty, even though the penalty would have been less than what we paid in rent. So we're not going to renew the lease. We renew it, and all you hush all your mouth, and then pick up the phone and call in the same Zaman Enterprises to say, here, what now? We're looking for a building for the CPO's office. And we heard that number 3 Alexandra Street is available for rent. Never mind the fact that we currently renting number 1 and it empty, but we looking for office and we heard number 3 is available. Is that so? Yes, yes, it is so. Munilal admitted that. Like somebody was playing there say that you, how you could do that? Or you have number 1 empty, you want to use number 3? But behave yourself, yes. And what did we do? We looked east and went to Barataria, say you're looking for a building. $56 million in rent spent and nobody moved into the building. That cannot be found. So when I see people like Chris talking to me about money waste, and this government waste money, so the 56 million that the people that you support, Chris, that wasn't wastage. Not one public servant stepped foot in this ghost building, but $56 million went in rent. And when the question was put to the then minister in the Ministry of Finance in January of 2015, one, what's his name, boy? Rudy Darsing, he said, well, and this is, now remember, they entered into this lease in December of 2012. We are in January of 2015. Rent paying to the tune of millions of dollars, and the building is not, based on what the Auditor General's report said, the building remains unoccupied. And what did Mr. Ramadar Singh, Indar Singh say? Well, you know, we are yet to outfit the building. So we're still in that phase. December 2012 to December 2013. December 2013 to December 2014. January 2015. You're still in the outfitting phase. So it takes you 2 years. 2 years. Now we know they have experience and they had contractors who could do outfitting because the amount of times they outfitted number 1 Alexandra Street, right, to the tune of over $120 million and still never used it. But in January of 2015, you're telling us. And then they went through, they left office in September of 2015 and still the building wasn't outfitted. So what was the point of that? Just to spend money? But Chris don't think that was a waste of money. Right? No. You could have taken that same money and you had government campus, which Mr. Manning built, which was completed and only needed to be outfitted. You could have taken that same money and outfitted one of the towers or put towards outfitting one of the towers or even a few floors on one of the towers and put them there. No, you ain't do that. Those buildings must stand as a monument to P&M wastage. Vanity projects. Manning loved tall buildings. He wanted to change the skyline of Port of Spain, and we will leave it there for all times as a monument of shame. Meanwhile, we will continue, while all we have to do is to spend some money to outfit these buildings and move several government ministries and departments into there. We will leave it there, and we will continue to rent. Put money into the pocket of the 1%, because why? We know we don't have the support of the 1%. So let us try and see if we could buy that support. You know, curry favor that support. Yeah, look, yeah, we could move in those buildings, but we prefer to rent from you all. Well, they were certainly able to attract at least one. And they put Mr. George Nicholas to head the board of Caribbean Airlines, right? While they continue to rent that blue glass building at the bottom of Independence Square and Abercrombie Street to house customs. Same customs, which today has its own building on Ajax Street and is paying rent to no one. And has been there for the last how many years? 7, 8 years or so. And for that period of time, Mr. Nicholas, who was enjoying rent between 2010 to 2015, has not received $1 in rent for that building. Not $1. But the P&M in the back pocket are the 1%. Well, that 1% must not be very happy, right? Because it's the P&M that took rent from his pocket, and he can't seem to find a tenant for that building. How many other buildings are around Port of Spain in a similar situation? Don't know how many times we'll repeat that. But anyway. Let me see here. Let me get this here. So the UNC's newest and favorite Potong. Let me see here. Talking about he can't wait to get on in the trenches. Let me get it. Where is this thing? Let me get it. Hold on. I'm gonna play this. Don't worry, it's not a crave indulgence moment. He hasn't been saying anything of substance worthy of being played. Save and except for one thing I saw. I during over the course of the carnival weekend, I kept looking at social media because I was expecting to see another video with Tupul unable to recognize himself, not knowing himself, drunk to the point where he didn't know himself. But I didn't see any until Tuesday. I saw one with him on what appears to be probably Charlotte Street or something like that, with a young lady. I don't know. It seems so every carnival he has a different lady in two. Can't seem to hold on to a woman. I don't know why. Well, I know why. I know why. I don't understand why any of these women would put themselves with him in the first place. But anyway, so in this video, for those of you who haven't seen it, I can't play it because it have a lot of expletives. So he encounters a group of men on what appears to be Upper Charlotte Street in the vicinity of Shaffer Course or something like that. And they're talking engaging in homophobic language, talking about Makome man and all kind of thing. But that's not the word they're using, right? Let me keep it friendly. And saying they don't want to be dealing with no, chichi man or whatever it is. Again, that's not the word they were using. And of course, Roberts is there because the video is about him. This guy with his hand around his shoulder and he have his drink in his hand. And yeah, he's encouraging these men in that kind of nonsense talk. And then so they say, yeah, we don't deal up with anything and whatever. And then he said, and they call names, they call a few names of PNM ministers. And Roberts says, don't call Keith Scotland. Don't call Keith Scotland. Right? This is a senator. These are the people who took issue with Stuart Young's comment, hot mic comment, talking about homophobic and all kind of thing and all of that. But here it is that you have a man who is a senator, member of the upper house, who continues to fight his leader because he's still hoping to somehow be able to get to represent the St. Joseph seat, because I understand there is some bacchanal taking place there because between Julian John, allegedly, and the prospective candidate, Devish Mirage. There seem to be a little tiff. They're not seeing eye to eye on certain things. There are allegations that his campaign is being undermined and that he's giving consideration to withdrawing his candidacy because of the internal fighting. But the media wouldn't really focus on that. But nevertheless, with respect to that. And in this video, he is, engaging these men in this nasty talk. And he's happy about it, calling up name and all kind of thing and small pain and all this foolishness. Where are the people who took issue with what Stuart Young said? But the clowns that supported and applauding that. Yeah. That is the behavior and conduct. This man is out in the public domain. This is not something that was said in a private setting. This is not something that was a exchange between or crosstalk. This is somebody who's in the public domain, who is encouraging people, supporting that kind of talk, calling ministers' names and making allegations. And you have people sharing that nonsense and uploading it. And the same people who are supposed to be upstanding have an issue. Something that was said in the parliament. Support, hot mic. But you have no problems with a man because you're supporting that nonsense. And I don't know what is his obsession with that. It's always everybody is a homosexual. First day Rishi Sukai come into the Senate, you decide to run and do a Douglas politics to talk about your fine Rishi Sukai looking a little shifty and okay, you're watching how he walking. Who does that? You're watching this one pants and how it tight and all of that. And really? Okay, Mr. Roberts. In due course, maybe there's a reason why it is you can't keep a woman. But anyway, let me not go there. All right? Just thought I'd mention. But as I say, I can't play it because it have real cussing, profanities. And I know some of you listen to my podcast in your home and children would be in earshot, and we don't want to encourage that kind of thing. Right? But it is out there. And as is the norm. And clearly, he seems to be a little inebriated. Not as drunk as he was last day when he did not know who he was. When it took a woman calling his name about 6 times before somebody had to tell him, hey, it's you, she called him. Me, oh yeah, it's Anil. How you Remember that? Okay. And maybe he get pulled up last year by his leader. So tell him don't make that happen again. And since it is that he's still trying to get the opportunity to represent St. Joseph, you don't want to do anything that could upend that in the little window of hope that you still have. Okay? Little window of hope. So he tried to behave himself. But I wouldn't be surprised if in due course we see our video surfaces with him totally inebriated. Right. So I'm trying to get this thing here now. Where is it? Let's see here. So let's see if I get this here. Where is it?
I can't wait to be in the trenches with Anil Roberts, Jeremy John, David Nackett. Listen now, you hear that squad? You hear that squad? Anywhere we touch down, the whole place shall run. Trust me. You hear that? Of course, the leader can do the services.
You hear that squad? You hear that squad? The goon squad. But this is not the first time that Mr. Alexander would have attempted to be a part of a squad, if you want to call it that. Remember when they tried to capitalize on Andrea Barrett? He, Inchana Schmel, and Ian Allen formed what was called the Trini Avengers. People are asking, well, who is what? Trini Avengers. Well, that didn't last very long. So now you have the Goon Squad. Himself, Julian John, Anel Roberts, and David Nackett. I mean, the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst that you could find. And this is the squad. When they touch down, the whole place shell down. He can't wait to get down in the trenches. No, you mean you can't wait to get down in the gutter. Right? The gutter. All of you all belong. That's where you belong, in the gutter. Because the nastiness that you're going, even the gutter is too good. I might even say when you get down in the cesspit. And even then, the cesspit's still too good for the fall here. And then it seems like, as an aside, he mentioned, and of course, the political leader, so he forget her. Yeah, but she has the capacity as well to, yeah. But I noticed he didn't mention Rudal Munilal. I don't know why. Because his mouth could be just as nasty. What about Padarath? He's not part of the squad too? Wherever they touch down, the whole place shell down. All right. We wait with bated breath to see that. And I want you all to take note of these things when they touch down. And the whole place shell down, and listen to what comes out of their mouth. The quality or lack thereof. And what will be offered on a PNM platform. Because for them, decency be damned. He advocates Trump style of politics. Say what the hell you want. It don't matter. People like that. People like when it is that you're out there and you're just, as they say, honest. You could say, you could lie, but because you say it, you're not afraid to say certain things. So you could stand up on a pavement and call ministers all kind of homophobic names. Right? And say these things. It's okay. Because we know the UNC faithful will like that. Yeah, but yeah, what Anel say, boy. Yeah, Anel say. The squad, the Goon squad, inclusive of David Nackett, who had no problems calling the former president an insipid female, well, male donkey. Yeah, he had no problem with saying that. No problem. That's the squad. That is the squad that Kamala has put together to come to speak to you, to convince you to vote for them. Here are the names. The worst of the worst. But that is the squad. When they touch down, the whole place shell down. Yeah, but yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want. 5 years of nastiness of that. We got it for the last, how many years? They're in opposition. They want it on the government bench. If you think and you have issues with Stuart Young. Really? Miss me with that. So, permit me to play something again, folks. I've played it before on occasions, but I'm craving your indulgence to play it again. Not Anil Roberts. Right? Because this being the last week of Dr. Rowley's tenure as Prime Minister, oh boy, they're doubling down and tripling down on the nastiness. Well, indeed. So the resurrecting thing now about Dr. Rowley, well, this calypso that was sung, that placed second in the Dimashgram, which spoke about, Dr. Rowley's father and the young girl, Dr. Rowley's slaughter and so on. Lyrics, anyway, as I said, I'm not going to comment on it, right? Can't do that. But needless to say, all these videos they're reviving, talking about some. Remember, they said that Dr. Rowley had twins with some woman from Diego Martin. The woman came out and disputed that, talked about the stress that is causing her family, her husband, and all of these different things that they talk about that. So they revived that, talking about the young girl that Dr. Rowley, when he played Mass in South, and all kind of things. So I don't know. Rowley must go. Rowley must go. Well, he leaving. He leaving. All I getting what all I wanted, but you want to double down and triple down on the nastiness for what? For what? He's no longer there. He's no longer going to be there as the prime minister. Effective post March 16th, he will be a backbencher. Right? I don't know what portfolio he will hold, if any. But what's the issue? All I want him go on, he leaving, and all of this nasty talk and so on. It's interesting, that I see there is purportedly a letter. I'm going to play my thing just now, but the email that was allegedly sent by Robert Amar to Dave Tanku, the chairman of the UNC, in which he, let me get this here. Get this here just now. In which he resigned as a lifetime member of the UNC. Let me see, where is it? Where is it? Right. From Robert Amar, date Thursday, the 27th of February, 2025 at 11:30 a.m. Subject, lifetime member, to peterkanhai@gmail.com, General Secretary, UNC. As one of the early lifetime members of the UNC, it is with a heavy heart that I tender my resignation as a lifetime member with immediate effect. I wish the UNC all the best in the upcoming 2025 general election. Robert Amar, lifetime member. But so far, this has been in the public domain, and Mr. Amar has not denied it, right? But he was a lifetime member. In fact, he would have offered himself in the last internal election last year to run for the position of deputy political leader, right? So that is to tell you how entrenched he was in that party. This, but he didn't make this one public. So that when they're telling you this is just an orchestrated thing and the timing of it is designed to make the party look bad, Mr. Amara didn't publish this, but it eventually came out. Since the 27th, he submitted this, right? So what was his motive? He trying to make the party look bad? He didn't publish it on Facebook. He didn't run to the media. Since the 27th, nobody knew. But it's when we saw his wife, Sharon Amar, post that picture with two of them hands locked, both of them wearing the armband from what appears to be the PNM Red Fed, and her message talking about the time has come, change is coming soon. What was their motives? They're trying to make the party look bad too? So when people of this caliber who have been supporting that party for the longest while, I told you all, Mr. Amar used to be bashing Dr. Rowley and the PNM on his radio station. The same radio station he used to come on after the Three Clowns on the Underground Report. Sometimes they used to call him to be a guest, call him on the phone and talk to him on the Underground Report. Had nothing good to say. But today is a different story, right? So we will see how many more of these resignations have taken place that we don't know about. Persons who may be prominent in the party but are not prominent in the public space, and therefore, announcing their resignations would have, well, people will be like, who is that? We don't know who that is. But they're getting these resignations. They're getting it. The people are not simply saying, well, I just give up. They're leaving the party. Take my name off of your membership list. That is what is happening. But meanwhile, the leader talking about it is of no significance or any consequence. Why? Because over the last 18 months or so, the party has registered thousands of new members. So she said that a couple of days ago. But last week, you told us that you attracted 700 new members of different ethnicities, predominantly persons of African descent. So it went from 700 last week or week before to this week, thousands of new members. Thousands. But Marsha Walker, who was a former member of the UNC, I say former because she's now, it seems she has left the UNC officially. We didn't see her resignation, but she is now a member of the NTA, and the NTA's candidate for Diego Martin West. So she hopes to go up against PNM's candidate, who is Hans Devines. And we don't know who the UNC is going to, but if Philip Alexander will try to throw his hat in the ring, he should put his money where his mouth is. Because Dr. Rowley isn't there. So let's see. Come now. If you're so good, can't wait to go down in the trenches. When you touch down, the whole place shell down, Philip will fix it. Since you think Hans is a pushover, throw your hat in the ring. Let's see. Remember, he said he running for St. Joseph. They put the party headquarters in St. Joseph. The UNC already named a candidate in St. Joseph. So I don't know if all of this bacchanal that's taking place there now with Devish and so on, if it is that is perhaps to get Devish to pull out. So maybe Philip could have a chance, because even though between he and Anil is the same, what is it, big crapo, small crapo, same handful of salt. The only question is which one of them worse than the other. Hey, so, let's see, what is this? Right. Anyway. So they can't even get it right with respect to candidates. All these great candidates that you screen, but yet still so far you've named what, 11, I think? Went from 8 to 11, or sometimes the media keeps getting it wrong. But just permit me to play this again, folks. Right. Briefly, and this is of course in response to, because I see they come back with 106 school stupidness. They can't tell you how many houses built. And I keep saying every time I raise that issue, if you tell me you built 6 houses or 6,000 houses or 8,000 or 10,000 houses, I will be more impressed with that than they come telling me you built 106 schools. And their supporters continue to push that choppy talk. All right? No matter how much you tell them, that is not so. That didn't happen. Yes, Kamala was better than Rowley because she built 106 schools. Okay. Rowley built 5 hospitals, she built 1. To me, 5 hospitals more impressive. The same people always talking about they could buy more, they could take that money and buy more beds and buy more hospital beds and put it where? Put the hospital beds where? If you don't build new hospitals, then where you put in the more beds? If a hospital built for 300 beds, you can't come and add 200. To put it where? In the car park? In the basement? Where you put it in the mortuary? You need to build more hospitals to facilitate more beds, but that doesn't seem to resonate with them. So every time this government tries to do something and spend money on certain things, I'll waste some money. They could take that money and buy more beds. More beds in the hospital. Everything is always a vanity project. I saw, and I need to mention this, right? I was coming up by Keith Street there, and I noticed that the museum, the Royal Victoria Institute, I think is what they call it, in Port of Spain, right, just opposite Memorial Park. That for years, that building was looking rundong and old and beat out. It looked terrible. Terrible. This administration undertook, because when you pass there, you would notice the galvanized fence was right next to Napa, undertook to renovate that building. And the main building is almost completed, and the companion building behind, I guess they will be dealing with that shortly. But when we look at the value that this administration has placed on our heritage buildings, which a lot of citizens don't seem to have any regard for, which is why for the 5 years that the UNC was in office, Millefleur was on the verge of collapse, right? They just boarded it up on stuff, and it was an eyesore, it was an embarrassment. All the millions and billions that they spent, no priority was given to that. Such that when this administration came in, the first consideration was to tear down the building and perhaps rebuild something as close to a replica of what was originally there. But instead of doing that, what did they do? They brought in experts from Cuba to come and take a look at it, and the experts said, yes, we could salvage it, we could fix it. No need to tear it down. This building that was constructed in 1904, over 100 years ago, right? And as children growing up, we keep hearing about this Magnificent Seven, Magnificent Seven. Over 100 years ago, you have people who, everybody alive today in this country would have been hearing about this Magnificent Seven and so on. Right? But they were prepared to allow that building to collapse. Did absolutely nothing. Only paid lip service. Today, Millfleur has been renovated and is earning money. Right? Every time you pass, there's something taking place. If it's not a party or a birthday celebration, a wedding, they're doing an advertisement, a photo shoot, something is being held there. But for the 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days that they were there, nothing happened. The building was just there as an eyesore. So when the cruise ships come in and they take any tourists around the savannah, they couldn't stop in front there for them to look at it. They just had to bypass that street. Right? Today, you could stop right by QRC and they could walk that stretch. Only one of the 7 buildings is still in private hands, which is Rumo. And despite efforts by the government to try and assist to at least spruce up the front of the building, the family has been, from what I was told, they're reluctant so to do. Even the National Trust would have reached out to them, offering to even do a paint job to the front and probably clean up the yard and so on, but they have declined. So the other 6, yeah. But today, these maxis could stop there and afford the tourists to come out and take some photos. Today, they could do so with the Red House. Between 2010 to 2015, where was the parliament? At the same waterfront that they called a vanity project, that they told us that money could have been used to buy more hospital beds and could have been used to build more schools and so on. But fortunately, Mr. Manning turned a deaf ear to that nonsense. He built it and it presented a facility for them to be able to use as the parliament for the period of time that they were there. When this administration came in, what did they do? They undertook to complete that years-long renovation project of the Red House. And today, the Red House stands pristine, looks better than ever, right? And people, the cruise ship, the maxis could now stop there first and allow people to take pictures of our parliament building, which was an eyesore between 2010 to 2015. It was just, they just had the fencing and stuff and the big canopy above it. President's House, restored. The building that now houses the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Between 2010 to 2015, that was the Ministry of Agriculture. And every time I passed there, it's like, that building looked all run down. It just needed to be demolished. It was an embarrassment. But you're proud to have a big sign that says Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Lands and Fisheries or whatever it is, right? Big fancy Porsche Cayenne park up in front. Purple Porsche Cayenne, right? Because the minister said, well, you know, as Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Lands, you have to go certain places and you need a vehicle like that. Nice fancy vehicle park up in front of this embarrassment of a building. What did this administration do when they came in? First thought was to demolish it and put a hotel there and to get one of these foreign brands to come and run it. Instead, they decided to renovate it. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs is there. So we're not paying any rent. The state owns that building and it is one of the most beautiful buildings in that area. So those of you who live in Deep South and don't know, right, you could use Waze, you could use Google Maps. That still can help somehow. Take a drive now. Take a drive around your country. Leave South for once now. Instead of staying down South, Deep South, and only talking nonsense when nothing happening and the PNM do nothing and nothing. Take a drive on a Saturday or a Sunday. Take your children, let them see the capital city for once. Instead of staying, and figure everything is down there. Take one drive. You don't need to only go on the beach and stuff. You could go to Maracas Beach and on the way, pass through Maraval and see for yourself what we're talking about. See the site that has been earmarked and the site has been turned for the new EBC headquarters behind that very same Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Take a drive and see these renovated buildings that look so nice. Drive in the night. Friday night, Keith Scotland had an event Bacchanal Friday by his constituency in Piccadilly Greens. And I would have attended. And I had cause to go around the savannah and so on. And look how beautiful these buildings look when they lit up in the night. And see, I recall, and I always talk about this, the former charge d'affaires of the US embassy, Shante Moore, when he was here. And he would have attended a couple of events that the National Trust would have held, and I would have had conversations with him. And I always remember him telling me that one of the things that he loves to do most, ever since he came to Trinidad, come out on a Sunday, come out on a weekend, and just walk that stretch from Queen's Royal College, go all the way around to President's House, right? And it's so he just loves to come out with his family, and he appreciates that stretch and how we have preserved those buildings. This is an American. He was reassigned. But I always remember him telling me that and praising the government for the work that they did in restoring these buildings. Dr. Rowley intended, when we met with him in 2020, just before they opened the Red House, and he said his plan was to have that entire district declared a heritage district. But let us not forget, for the 5 years that they were there, when they came in, Mr. Warner said, he promised then President Max Richards, don't worry, before we demit office, before you demit office or your term ends as president, you will move into the president's house because we're going to renovate it and so on. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they did absolutely nothing. You had this big canopy over the part that collapsed, and it continued to collapse. As Dr. Rowley told us when they went in there, how many trucks of garbage they had to take out. But with less revenue, less money, this government committed to that. Today, President's house is restored, looks pristine, and it is occupied. The main house is occupied. The president not living in a cottage behind, as was the case with with President Carmona, and as was the case with President Max Richards. This president can live actually in the main house, which is restored for you, the citizens, as yours. So when the cruise ships come, and it's nice to see the maxis parked up, and the tourists in the president's grounds taking pictures and so on of these buildings to go back home and post it up on their social media platforms and promote Trinidad and Tobago. You know why that is possible? Because of what this government gave priority to. Not the other party when they were there, and the things that they gave priority to. Take a drive down St. Vincent Street and look at the Magistrates Court. That again used to look horrible. The main Magistrates Court in Port of Spain, the only one for that matter. Today it is restored, looking very nice, complementing its sister building, which is the Parliament. Take a drive across Knox Street and look at what is soon to be the new Eric Williams Memorial Library on the corner of Knox and Pembroke Street there, restored by this administration. Take a drive and see the effort that this administration has put into the preservation of our heritage buildings. But that other party didn't care about that. They couldn't care less about Port of Spain. And if those buildings had collapsed, well, to hell with that. Today, those buildings are restored, some of them generating revenue for their own upkeep. Just thought I'd make mention of that, right? So when they keep asking, what did PNM do? And what did PNM do? And the PNM do nothing for the last 9 years. And we have a long list that is circulating. And whenever I see them asking that in comments on that post and I drop it on them, all of a sudden they're gone quiet. And I keep checking every minute to see if they would respond. And they don't. You know why? Because they don't know. They didn't know half of these things happened. Half of these things took place. But all they over the place yapping. Government, they do nothing. And the PNM, they do nothing. And they didn't do nothing. And 9 years and they had nothing to show. Name 5 things the PNM do. But when we give you 60-something and 70-something things that they did, all of a sudden your mouth hush. You have nothing to say. Respond. Challenge it. You can't. All right. Let's get this here.
Heart that is full of gold, and therefore we want, for the national community, we want our patients to do very well. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, on health and education, we play no politics whatsoever from this side of the bench. We want the same thing as the government wants. We are patriots, and we want the best for our people of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Member, I recognize the member for Rima.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it was not my intention to join the debate at this time. But after hearing the member for County East and the misinformation that he has spewed in this chamber, I had a responsibility to this chamber and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to correct some of the bad news that he has been spreading. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have in my hand here a document that I got from the Planning Division of the Ministry of Education. In other words, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this document is authentic. The member for County East is claiming that under his administration, they built, or let me use this word, they started and completed 106 schools. Mr. Deputy Speaker,
that is furthest from the truth. Very far from the truth. He is claiming that they started and completed 69 ECC centers. He is claiming that they started and completed 31 primary schools. And he is claiming that they have started and completed 6 secondary schools. Mr. Deputy Speaker, just let me give you the facts. Yes, let me give you the facts. Listen to him carefully. Something really jumped out at me. He is claiming that the Lafayette RC School was 22% complete under his stewardship. The Lafayette RC School falls under my constituency. Not a blade of grass has been moved where that is concerned. Absolutely nothing has been done. Yet he is claiming 22% completion. Absolutely nothing.
Shame. Shame, not a blade of grass.
Mr. Deputy Speaker.
It has been heard. Again, proceed, Member Farima.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the member for County East is claiming that they started and completed a number of primary schools. Those of us who travel along the bus route, and you know as we approach Page Junction, that school that has been there for a number of years, the Tidapura Government Primary School, this minister is claiming that they started and they built that school. How far from the truth could we get? But let me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, talk about what is the truth where this is concerned. And I'm starting with the ECC centers. The Aranguez ECC Center was a project started by the PNM administration, not by his administration. The Bon Air ECC Center was started by the PNM administration. The Carson Field ECC Center was another one that was started by the PNM administration. The La Goya ECC Center, a project started by the PNM administration. The Clark Rochard Center, again, was started by PNM administration. The Kush ECC Center, a project started by the PNM administration. The Edinburgh South ECC Center, a project started by the PNM administration. The Egypt Trace ECC Center, again started by the PNM administration. The Golconda ECC Center, PNM administration. The Harmony Hall ECC Center, started by the PNM administration. The La Hocketa South ECC Center, again started by the PNM administration. The Lisa Gardens project was started by the PNM administration. The Lower Kubuto ECC Center, again started by the PNM administration. The Maloney ECC Center, and I'm sure the Minister of Planning knows about this one, is a project that was started by the PNM administration, and it was opened in January 2010 before they came into office.
Oh my. Shame.
The March Hill ECC Center is a project that was started by the PNM administration. The Marval ECC Center, a project started by the PNM administration. This was completed in May 2010 before the UNC came into office. The Owapuch Gardens ECC Center, again, this project was started by the PNM administration, and this school was opened in May 2010. The Wostonia ECC Center was started by the PNM administration. It was completed and operational under the PNM administration. The retrenched ECC Center, again a project started by the PNM administration. St. Augustine North, the project started and completed under the People's National Movement.
Should be a shame. Come on, Tim, you're too grown for that.
One second, and before I remark again, standing order 53 stands. The crosstalk across the chamber on both sides, please. This is proceed.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, of the 69 ECC centers that the member for Carolina East claimed to have been started and completed, 36 was started under the PNM administration. Let's move on.
Mr. Speaker, I will rise on a matter of clarification. Where can we get that source of information from?
Unless the member gives way.
36 started under the PNM, right? So we're going from 106, we're down to 70 now. 70. We continue.
Unless it's a standing order. Either or. Proceed.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now move on to the primary schools. The Tulipuna Government Primary School, which I mentioned just now, you said that school was started under the UNC. That school has been in existence for quite some time. The Penal Rock Road SDMS was a project started under the PNM administration. The Palo Seco Government Primary School was a project started by the PNM administration. The Lengua Presbyterian School, a project started by the PNM administration. The Arima New Government School, a school that resides in my constituency, a school that I'm intimately involved in, that was started by the PNM administration.
Tim, come on.
The Monkey Town Government Primary School was started by a PNM administration. The Enterprise Government Primary School started by a PNM administration. The Manzanella Nareva GPS, and this is a school that is close to my heart because I started my teaching career at the North Manzanella Government School. When that school was disestablished, the Manzanella Nareva Government Primary School was established under a PNM administration.
Wow. Wow.
The Roselle RC School, another important school that was started by the PNM administration.
Oh my God.
The Egypt Village Government Primary School, a project started by the PNM administration. The Point Kumala RC School, started by the PNM administration. As I see the Minister of Finance enter, the Parliament RC School was started by the PNM administration. Penal Kudam Government Primary School, a project started by the PNM administration.
Wow.
The Durham Village SDMS was started by the PNM administration. Of the 31 schools that claimed by the member for Carolina East, 13 of these schools were started by the PNM administration.
So we're down to 57. From 106, 57.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now bring to the attention of this House the schools in the secondary sector.
Yes. Yes.
Marbella South was a project that was completed by the PNM administration in May 2010.
May 2010.
It was completed in May 2010.
Tim is
The Aranguez North Secondary School, a project started by the PNM administration. The Couva West Government Secondary School, a project started by the PNM administration. The Princestown East Secondary School, a project started by the PNM administration. And this one is important. This one is important, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
This one important.
In fact, this one is important, Tim.
The Five Rivers Secondary School. I taught in that school for 10 years. I taught woodwork. Remember that? That was started by the PNM administration. The St. Augustine Secondary School, this underwent retrofitting and outfitting, and this was done by the PNM administration. In other words, Mr. Deputy Speaker, not one secondary school was started under the UNC administration.
Shame. That's a shame.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is really strange that a former Minister of Education who occupied such an important portfolio could stand before this Parliament chamber and give so much untruths that it really makes me shiver.
48, 4 and 6. 48, 4 and 6. If you give the proper motives and the rest, when you talk to that I'm speaking on truth. I spoke no truth and I gave the whole truth to this Parliament.
Remember, thank you. Overruled, proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Let me start, or let me continue from where I started.
1 second, 1 second. Member for Moruga Tableland. All right, I think I need to identify you now. It's too continuous. Proceed, Member Farima.
Thank you very much. Let me go back to where I started. I said, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this information came from the planning unit of the Ministry of Education. It is authentic. It is authentic. It is authority.
That's the fact.
What is authority? Authoritative document. Primary source.
I just want to take the opportunity very briefly to talk about laptops. And I heard again the member for County East talk about this government or his administration providing some 95,000 laptops to our students. Everybody in this country knows that that laptop initiative by the government was a fiasco. No infrastructure was put in place. Students were given inferior laptops that lasted 2 or 3 months.
Oh my God.
And I'm talking from personal experience, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I have 2 grandchildren who live with me. They were given laptops, and in a matter of 2 months, the laptops were no more. They had no infrastructure, including internet service and connectivity. There was none in these schools. The teachers were not trained. It is only now that we are training more than 2,000 teachers. No training was done where teachers were concerned. The curriculum, there was no curriculum that was developed to support ICT in education. And these are some of the things that led to that initiative being a total and complete failure. This administration is correcting that. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, I promise not to be long, but I just want to ensure that this House remembers the fact that we have engaged in.
So from 106, we went down to 51. 51. And all Tim Gopi Singh in the background could be talking about when Mr. Garcia started his contribution as he outlined and named these schools. Tim Gopi Singh, and yeah, we know it was constructed by Haji Construction. By Haji Construction. Whoever Haji Construction is. Right? But you admitted, so you know who the contractor was. That built these schools that you claim you all built. So you concede that these schools started under the PNM, and the only reason why they wouldn't have been completed under the PNM is because Mr. Manning called an early election in 2010, where they still had 2 years on that term, And had that election not been called, and he had run the full 5 years, all of those schools would have been completed under the PNM. He then goes on later on, as you would have heard him in the background talking about, yeah, but we open it. You didn't build it. You came and met these projects underway. So how can you take responsibility for it? The school's construction was already underway, which means financing and everything would have been put in place. The contractors would have been selected. They would have gone through all of the processes, and you came and you met it under construction. Of course, the PNM had limited office, unfortunately, and you inherited it, but you didn't do anything. Construction was underway, so when it was finished, the contractors handed it over to you, and you all put up a plaque, and you went and pulled and unveiled and said and put your name on it or Kamala's name on it and for posterity. But you had little or nothing to do with it. But oh yeah, well, I open it. Okay, so that's like, let's say, God forbid that they were to win the election later this year, and there are other projects, there are big mega projects that the PNM has going on. So if they come into office and it finished under them, Kamala could say, well, yes, well, we built the Central Block. We built Port of Spain Central Block because it was completed under us. Yes, we built the new Tobago Airport Terminal. Yeah, because it was completed under us. Rowley did a walkthrough and so on, and there was a commissioning, but the actual completion took place under us. So yes, we will take credit for that. We built the new Tobago Airport Terminal, and the supporters will clap and talk that. They talk the hospitals they like to take credit for. I keep telling them, sod was turned for the Arima Hospital on the 7th of May 2015, exactly 4 months before the general election. They turned sod. Turning sod, it does not constitute construction unless you were building a hospital for ants. And you turn the sod, and then the ants come after and they do what they have to do. The sod for the Point Fortin Hospital, they turned the sod for that on 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, on the 21st of May 2015, 3.5 months before the general election. Nothing was done. As we were told, there was no financing in place, no contracts issued, nothing. They just turned sod. And then what? Hospitals built under this administration. When this administration came in, they had to go and do over the designs. The designs for the Arima Hospital was completed in March of 2016. 7 months after the People's Partnership had limited office, the final designs. So how the hell you all could be taking credit for a hospital that the designs when you left office weren't even completed? Minister Dayal Singh would have outlined in a Newsday article where they had to get the money from, what was taken from the PSIP, what they had to borrow, and all of these things to be able to do that. And when the hospital was finished, what Munilal said, yeah, well, they must boast that it come in under budget because they changed the scope of work from what we had. Really? Prove that. Prove that. Today you have Jack Warner having visited the hospital for medical care, describing it as the best kept secret, the Ministry of Health's best kept secret. When he see the kind of care that he would have gotten inside, the type of equipment and so on that resides in that hospital. And once it is fully rolled out, and because remember, even though the hospital is finished, you still have to train people to be able to fully roll out all of the services. So even though you have the equipment there, the people have to be trained into how to use it. You may have to make sure that you have your persons in place to service these machines so that we wouldn't be hearing what we have been hearing for years, this machine down in this hospital and that down. So you need to make sure you have your personnel well trained and so on, and all of these facilities in place, and then you could fully roll out. And Grandi, it's being called a campus, a medical campus. They had nothing to do with that. Point Fortin, Roxborough Hospital, Port of Spain Central Block. Right? They were there for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days and did nothing with Port of Spain. That what was previously the Central Block, those of us who are familiar with that building was how old. And in 2018, when you had the big earthquake in August of 2018, that further damage, and there was a decision that they needed to condemn that part of the hospital because it couldn't take another earthquake like that. This administration was responsible for demolishing that. And today, again, I encourage those of you who support the UNC and who live down south, take a drive up north and see what is currently there. Just that Central Block alone, to my mind, could constitute a whole hospital. And they've been able to incorporate other parts of what previously existed with this new Central Block. And the government would have allocated some $34 million to renovate and to do upgrade works to the other parts of Port of Spain General Hospital, Mount Hope Hospital, and San Fernando General Hospital. But no credit for that. But when you talk about we can buy more bed and buy more bed. And the health sector in Trinidad and Tobago is, I'm sure we probably have the most amount of hospitals per capita in CARICOM. Right? You get 5 new hospitals under Keith Rowley in 9 years. The UNC, when you add Pandey 6 plus Kamla 5. Pandey 6 and a few months and Kamla's 5 years and 3 months and 14 days. You get an 11 and a half years. Between Pandey and Kamla, you got 1 new hospital, 1 in 11 and a half years. In Keith Rowley's 9 years, you get 5. But you want to tell me Kamla performed? And the UNC didn't have enough time? And the PNM was there for 40-something years and the UNC was there for only 11? But in 9, Rowley give you 5. So why the hell they couldn't build more than 1 in the space of 11 and a half years? No discussion about that. No discussion. And they hug up that as if, as if that's the greatest thing ever happened to Trinidad and Tobago. But to me, 5 and 9 versus 1 and 11, hands down. But again, as I always say for them, less is more. Less is more. All of these things. How many increases did you get in your personal allowance on Passad BSS? You didn't get none. 0. Keith Rowley give you 3 times. But Rowley don't care about the poor people and Rowley this and Rowley that and the wicked and all of that. But when you tell them about that, what do you have to say? Nothing. You're paying less taxes because of Keith Rowley, not because of Kamla. Right? But the business community will be paying less because of her, not you. Oh, but she so loved the poor, and she so loved the poor, and she so care about children and all of that. Bunch of liars. Miss me with that nonsense. Anyway, there's a lot more things to talk about. Let me just come back again briefly to Lahoketa Talparo, and I don't know the guy, never met him, never heard of him. Well, I first heard of him a few weeks ago. Of course, you hear things on the political hustings, right? That he had been intending to throw his hat in the ring. So we will see how that develops. But as I was saying, obviously, he would probably get some PNM people to jump on his bandwagon, because as with all constituencies, you will have your little differences, interpersonal differences and the like. Who can work with this one or work with that one, or whatever, and then people will But we wait to see how that plays out. I think Foster Cummings has done significant work in that constituency, which certainly, if the people or the voters in Lahoketa Talparo are truthful to themselves compared to what this individual brings, well, I don't know. If you bring in stove and fridge and all of that, take it. But you know where to put your X on election day. All right? And the further development work, and not just in Lahoketa, but that Minister Cummings has been doing in Talparo and Las Lomas and all of these areas, these different areas. That community center, I think, is being built in Jacob Hill or something like that. So a lot of work has been done. So just wait what took place under the PNM as opposed to what the UNC is offering. If Julian John couldn't do it, I don't see how this individual, what he could bring, save and except to probably pull a few disgruntled PNM supporters. But what are they offering you? What are they offering you if you give them the seat? What are they going to offer you? They have nothing of substance. Recall that when Jairam C. Mungal was there, what was the issues and what was the complaints that was coming out of that constituency? A word to the wise is sufficient, right? And you could expect more of that. That is what they are about, thuggery. And they figured that the only way that you could deal with PNM constituencies is to double down and triple down on thuggery politics. And that is why W. Mira, now Malaba Mausika, continues to reel from certain parts anyway, continues to reel from the impact of Hurricane Anil Roberts, right? Especially those areas that would have been directly impacted by live sport, and certain people that he would have associated with or put in charge of that particular program in parts of W. Mira. And today the impact of that continues to be felt. Continues to be felt, right? So just remember that, what they offer when you put them in charge of. But there were protests from the people of Bonaire West, Lupino Bonaire West, against their then MP, Douglas. right? Lincoln Douglas. As well as in Arima, the man that they had there, Roger Samuel, Pastor Samuel. Remember when the young man went to him to tell him about Delmon Baker, who was MP for, I can't remember if it's Tobago East or West, Mr. Nipples Grabber and so on, and Nibble and the like, and he told them, go home and pray. Just go home and pray. That's what he told them. What development did he bring to Arima? So the last time you all made that mistake of getting full up, chain up, and because you're vexed with who the PNM give you, you decide that you want to run with what Kamala offer in this coalition of interests. Just look carefully at who her coalition partners are, right? Just remember Philip Alexander, who still has questions to answer with respect to the Jericho project, questions to answer with the cans of hope and all of these different things. Mr. Roger, who is part of Patriotic, who we are told would have submitted a fraudulent document, supposedly a $1.5 billion wire transfer, US wire transfer, to be able to get the refinery. Just remember that. Lennox Smith, what the less said about him is better. But look at the people who gravitate into that party, in the leadership of that party, right? Everybody who have questions to answer, adding to those who already had questions to answer from before. So I word to the wise. I say no more on that. 7701763. I see somebody just messaged me here. They said, I am 75 years old. I attended Penal Quinam Government School. I took my college entrance exam in that school in 1961.
I don't know.
Yeah, just give me 1 sec there,
I
Jen.
don't know who's gonna kiss.
All right. Hello, good afternoon. Yes, sir.
Yes, all I will say is that PNM needs to answer when Kamala Prasad described the president of this country as a low-level PNM operative.
Yes.
Disrespect to the extreme. She has done nothing to give us as the senior counsel description. Even Israel Khan, who's an avowed supporter of the sector and an avowed supporter of the UNC, said that she should get back silk. And she's describing the president of the country as a low-level PNM operative. PNM must jump in and talk about this. You cannot just sit on the sofa, as they say, and say nothing about it. You must jump in and say something and call a low-level PNM operative. Who the hell is Kamala Prasad the sector? What has she done that reminds us about her excellent performance in the courthouses of this country? Not one case of recognition that where she has stood out. No landmark thing. That is why you see, when she gave herself and her AG Silk in 2012, now, I really had no problem with Ram Logan. He has been a successful lawyer. He has distinguished himself. He has had a career of success.
Yes.
So I had no problem, and I had no problem with his being conferred with the designation of Silk. But not to that defender. She has done nothing. She's no different from somebody who now leave law school and going in the magistrate court somewhere in the back of Mayaro or Princeton to represent somebody who keeps 2 goats and a pig. She has done nothing. And that is why, even when she gave herself an AG Silk, Carl Hudson Phillips came out and gave open objection to that kind of thing. Because she also attempted to subvert the whole ethics of the legal profession by giving Archie and Wendell Kangaloo Silk. And Carl came out and said, a judge could be influenced to vote in favor of the government. The actual word he uses, a judge could be suborned. Maybe because you gave me Silk, I could adjudicate in your favor. But I maintain that PNM must say something. Because the president can't talk. PNM must step out in the face, as they say, and defend the good name of Christine Kangaloo, president of Trade Agri. Who the hell is Kamala be said to call her low level? Really? That woman should be hauled over the coals and called to account for such damn disrespectfulness to the president of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I was looking for that article because I saw that where she referred to the president as a low-level PNM functionary. One must also take into consideration that should the UNC win, bear in mind the fact that Christine Kangaloo will be president under them for a further 2.5 years. And is this the level of disrespect that she could look forward to under them? Just asking. Because if they're disrespecting her, we know they didn't support her election as president, they wanted Israel Khan. So we know that should they come into office, definitely Christine Kangaloo will be a one-term president. And if Mr. Khan still has the strength in him to serve and he's willing, well, we'll see how that goes. Jenny.
Hi, Dominic.
Morning. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon to you and all those who are looked on to tax system and things. That situation in Hocketa, I know political scientist. I have no degree in them things, but I have common sense.
Yes.
It tells me something when they take a heavyweight, like Julian John, who is the deputy political leader of the UNC, and remove her from La Hocketa, Salparo. It tells me that they know she can't win. So if now they come with somebody who was a part of the PNM in terms of being the manager or something, so for the Minister Foster Cummins to fight that seat, it tells me they already know Quatta's book. Because I'm not no heavy hitter. Let me be real, I'm not no heavy hitter. If they leave Jolene John up there, I would have said, well, things looking a little dicey. But you move she from there and you get somebody who was some manager for Foster Cummins and all fight me see. That the only thing coming out of that is Kuchu back at
Jenny, come back. I don't know what went on there. Yeah, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there just now. As I was saying, the only thing going to come out to me in that situation, is Victory People's National Movement Minister Foster Cummins and some bacchanal and couture and he say, she did say, them say, we say. And Trinidad, this says Ilana bacchanal and in politics, it is a bacchanal and campaign, they go out bacchanal. But people keep on letting the price. You see all who resigning publicly from the UNC. Don't take on that, It looks good. And it gives us something to talk about. But what I want to something is people going out to vote does win, make a party, a political party win election. It ain't no win yet until we go out in the numbers and vote resoundingly for the People's National Movement. So while it looks good, this one going, that one doing all that, keep focus on the importance of a People's National Movement to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Because I will tell you, and Chris and all those on the lies, is the policies of the People's National Movement that have some of them could be talking again also. That all of us would be benefiting all now. All of us who working and the opportunities we get. Because I'll tell you what, I didn't say people work hard so they get But if Dr. Eric Williams put government policies in place that favors the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, you can work as hard as you want, as good as you want. You will not be able to be successful and own businesses, own land. You will not be able to know people at 65 years old. They don't have to work nowhere in this country. They ain't contribute to no pension, nowhere. But the taxpayers' money able to help them so they get an oldest pension at 65. We get NIS because that was introduced by the People's National Movement. when the opposition at the time was fighting it down, the People's National Movement under Dr. Williams proceeded. So today, when you retire as a worker, once you would have paid the NIS contribution, you're getting a monthly contribution. That is the PNN. All the schools that was built, Tim Gopison talking about them build this and that. All the schools that were built is Dr. Williams and the PNN. When Bada Saga Maharaj, yes, he did well for the Hindu community. Nobody can take away that from him. But when he started to build schools all over, it wasn't the healthiest of schools, all galvanized, shed and all them kind of thing. That's why the conversation about cowshed. And Dr. Williams took taxpayers' money and built proper schools for the Hindus. He built proper schools for the Catholics and all the other denominational schools. That was the People's National Movement. When the Indian community, the Hindus were sending the little girl children, either they're getting married early, because you know the conversation, once they started to see the period, they're good for marriage. They were getting married early, working in the cane field, planting rice. Dr. Williams Universal Education for Universal Education for, and he made sure they hired educational inspectors, I think was the name, that went across the Caroli Bridge to make sure that Indian mothers and fathers send the little children to school, the girl children to school. That will come up as a bit and have education today. To be talking about dividing this country by race and all that. They didn't get the opportunity under the People's National Movement, Dr. Williams. They will not have the opportunity to behave the way they behave, and those things are facts. It went so far. School feeding program. Miss Marilyn Gordon was one of the youngest members of parliament. She was in charge of the kitchen cabinet, where she will bring the issues on the ground that the women having, the children having, bring it to Dr. Williams, and he trusted her, and things came out of that. We have the school feeding program. We're in the school 3 times a week. They had nutritious meals. Dr. Williams and they hired dietitians to use the local food that was planted, because always tell me if people of Indian descent were the ones planting the land. So they use the pumpkin and the body and the battery that they were planting and incorporate it into meals for the children who go into school to get. I understand when you see is the days for lunch in school. Guys, when the school is a bit flooded with a lot of children of Indian descent, we blame them, you come and take a nutritious thing, and they came home the food for the man, the Peter, and the nanny, all of them to eat. The point I'm raising this is not to ridicule anybody, but it's to show the importance of a People's National Movement in the landscape and the development of this country, whether it's in education, whether it's in health, whether it's in business opportunities. It's the People's National Movement. And you all know that, you know, when all they jump out and go and vote for UNC and NR, all that, after 5 years, all they say, oh God, oh no. You have to go back to the people who just keep we steady and keep we safe, you know, the People's National Movement. All you know that is a fact. I don't want to tell Chris something. We are about unity. So when I spoke about the Dalits in India, it's responding to what you were talking about latrine, and I was just simply telling you, if you're of Indian descent, that is history, it's not me writing. The Dalits who came here, they run from an inhumane caste system that had them relegated to cleaning filth off the street, taking up dead animals, body fluids, all that, which is taboo in Hinduism. They weren't able to become doctor, lawyer, teacher, nothing. They were relegated to being just the cleaners and the sweepers and the one and doing the menial job. They ran from that, come through indentureship, and came to that, and of course they did well. But don't try to tell me if all you alone have business, and it wasn't for all you what we go do, because I'll tell you something, they say we are the spenders. If we don't go in the stores and buy, or we don't work in all the stores or whatever, how are we going to make the money? But again, I talk in unity, so I want to tell you, it's not only people of Indian descent have business in this country. African people have successful businesses running all over, and I put up some on the chart. We have over about 400 African businesses in this country successful. But Chris, I want to tell you something, and again, this is no insult. African people don't have a history of boasting about what they have. They buckle their head down, they do the work, and you never know them own this or own that, and they're doing their part to development of this country. Unlike some people like you, Chris, all you have to boast to tell me what all you have. We don't do that. So we are doing our part, we're doing equality just like the Chinese or the Sea or any other race in this country. So don't come to us and feel that we're penniless and hopeless because you're seeing some of our community behaving badly, and the media and everybody does just stick on that. But they don't stick on other races, especially in their community, with things are going on. I want to finally end by saying, Chris, why it is in the prisons in this country, the woman prison, it has so much Indian women, my Indian sisters, and them in jail. Tell me why. And then we have a conversation because crime is not an Indian, Chinese, African, Syrian thing, it's a human thing. And circumstances are created that make some are always in jail and some. Because I'll say again, under the times of those shady and all that, we didn't have the money. We was the workers. When I say we, I ain't talking about African people were the workers. So you know the theory is, when police come to hold and whatever, them had the money to pay for high price, whereas all of the workers didn't have nothing. Them started to make the jail and became the face of crime in this country, which is unfortunate. But don't play we as if we don't have nothing in this country. We want unity because all races have to build this country together. And who have a problem and it's bad and they're suffering and we can think, I'll always say, then only leave. And leave we here. Leave the Indians here, the Africans, the Chinese, Syrian here. Now we build this country as one people. Because our anthem says that every creed and race find an equal place. And all of these mother Trinidad and Tobago children, you can't discount none of it because mother don't discriminate. But who have a problem here, all they leave we and all they go with things nice. And we go continue to build this. Dr. Rowley, give me another platform, and we will continue on that platform with Minister Stuart Young when it has been officially handed over to him, the Prime Ministership, to go take us into election. And we're going to win convincingly. So the PNM to continue the work for we children and we children and all children of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Dominic. You have a blessed one.
Thank you, Jen. All right, so I'm reading this article here concerning Mr. Watts. Reading the comments, and it doesn't seem like he's very popular. Well, we'll see how that turns out. I understand that UNC diehard have an issue with him because they think the UNC is putting a PNM reject in a seat that they think they could possibly win, and so they're asking if you couldn't find somebody, a UNC faithful, to put up there. Well, let's see how he will fare as opposed to Julian John's chances. And why Julian John pull out? If you all think it's such a walk in the park, why did Julian John, who has been working that seat, notwithstanding her loss in 2020, she and Annelle Roberts were the two people that you were seeing walking. Annelle was walking in St. Joseph and she was walking in La Joqueta Talparo for the last 4 years or so, right? She had her team with her, they were working the ground, and all of a sudden she changed her mind and decided, it can't work. So I just asked him, did your internal polling tell you something? And what is it about this guy that you think he would stand a better chance than Julian John? What? No pun intended. What does he bring to the table other than he could probably marshal a few disloyal PNM persons? So we will wait to see how that pans out. Yeah. Eric.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, the callers, listeners. Thanks for one thing on this Sunday afternoon. Jenny, I must say, very good contribution as usual. Mr. Yates, Brian, all the PNM warriors, right, who championing the cause for this election season is fastly approaching. Now, Dominic, I have a little question for relative to that so-called candidate that the UNC they take into open arms the PNM, the former PNM chairman for the La Hokota Talparo constituency, who would have championed that constituency from since 2015 to now, to present, right? My question to him is, what was the deal allegedly was made between you and the UNC, one, and two, do you truly want to represent the constituents of La Hokota Talparo, or are you just joining the UNC for your personal and selfish greed behavior? Because it goes to show that, you know, when you want to say the People's National Movement and you getting certain things, as you rightfully said, you're suffering from didn't get, you know, when they get what they want, they will jump ship and sort of badmouth the house that was feeling here. Yeah, so this person is no surprise to me, and at the end of the day, everybody have their choice, everybody have their affiliation, whoever they choose to represent or who they want to support. But my thing, right? You sit down in an executive for a constituency that held the constituency for 10 years, right? 10 years PNM held the La Hokota Talparo constituency, right? Out of that 10 years, is it possible, and I have put it on record, now he said next week Monday, he is going to mount a platform in the Brazil, I think it's the communist and all the school, I can't remember where it is, and a USC platform, and he's going to say why and what is the reason he would have left the People's National. Is it that you're going to talk all that was taking place while he was there as a chairman of the constituency? No, we need to, you see, people don't understand these crooks and that, because they just want to pretend this was something which they are not. You understand? You sat down there as a chairman, right? Who knows? Things might have probably go haywire, you never know. Things that happen. So what, are you going to use that avenue now to malign Foster Cummins? Are you going to use that platform to malign all the information that was dissected towards you under the privacy of you, the MP, and other executive within the constituency? Are you going to divulge all that private matters out in the UNC, we're calling the Waterfront Elk and all moderate forum next week Monday? No, you see, and this is what you have to understand, but there's always say, and not everybody you trust is your friend. Not everybody you feel that they can confide in, they are trustworthy of your privacy. But that being said and done, I wish him best of luck, because as what Jenny said, Jolene John was our heavyweight in La Hokota Talparo. She couldn't muster that seat or wrestle from the PNM in 2020. Right? Prior to that, I don't know whether for UNC in 2015. They wrestled against the UN, against the PNM. You're sending somebody who is alleged that have some problem with some businesses in the area that wasn't doing well, and it caused a sort of downfall within his business, and he had to close it down. And I want to ask that individual question before I go. It is alleged that it had certain PNM personnel who have grievances with the UN, with the government and Foster Cummins, who would have mounted and orchestrated that protest action in the squatting development area in that constituency. Is it to cause a riffraff within the constituency and Foster Cummins? I just asking questions, you know. I just asking questions. And before I go, is it alleged that a certain community center in that constituency, right, that coming into question when he was there as a chairman. So you're free to go. You know, you will gladly to accept you because they will accept people of all stature. So you're free to go, sir. And best of luck. I wish you best of luck in contesting the Lapota seat. And we will see how things go from there. So with that being said and done, Dominic, good program. I love listening.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
How are you going, man?
I am good, man.
We have a wonderful contribution from Eric. Now, because I wanted to say, you know, these people that have who decided effect from the PNM to join the UNC. Something is wrong with them morally and spiritually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that chap, what is the name is Mr. Watt? I thought that he would have joined somebody like Makila Pandey party. Or better, if you have a coalition thing, go back to a different party. Or hope. You decide to join a party with some questionable characters, with people in that party who had answered criminal charges. Why you join that party? Why didn't you join Makila party? So in other words, Dominic, it seems like this gentleman, he have a problem with Mr. Foster's program. What the program that Mr. Foster is dealing with the youth, like the homestead program.
Yep.
Is he against the homestead program that Mr. What? So people African descent like you and me could afford to get a quiet piece of land? Is that the problem there, Mr. What? Is that why it defected the UNC? I find it interesting that Ms. Marsha Walker has finally defected from UNC to the NTA. How long she sympathized with the NTA?
Well,
I will probably say since 2022, since she lost her deposit in the local government election. So she was a secret NTA supporter while she was a member of the UNC.
After she and Gary Griffith fell out in 2020 when she was the candidate for Diego Martin West, and they had the big bacchanal and the cookery main road.
So why she didn't go as an NTA candidate during that time? Something that added up here. And then all the other things with the background going on in the BTM side with young members, the people are checking the thing and they're asking the MP to intervene. I'm looking at all these little situations. I don't know. They really want to cause a fear in this country. Right? And all they should be glad that Dr. Roddy is going. Why all the memes about him? Or they want to dig up in the man pass about school jail and who we will and rape child and all that in Moran, father, stuff like that. Something wrong with trade alliance on the big one, you know. And Dominic, you to protect yourself too because it's like they're coming after you too. And like they want to go and they want to have on you being an ILP. Which everybody know long time, you were just there, but there was PNM that.
Yep.
But they want to use that they want to be like a Steve John that use ILP and you shouldn't be a PNM candidate in that constituency. You ever encountered that situation when you're doing a work on Dominic?
No, I haven't.
But thank goodness. Well, you continue what you're doing, Dominic.
Yes.
Because you see them and these so-called fly-by-night parties. And then we have to pay for Tobago too because I want to see what Tobago, which direction Tobago want to go. Those two seats are very crucial. Or they want to get rid of Ayana, Webster Roy, and Shafa Kujo. Or put in who? We'll see what we're on.
Yes.
I should take election this year too, so let's go on. Go over there.
Thank you. I wanted to touch on this article by Sellout Kojo Selwyn. Anyway, But I will leave that for another day, right? Yeah, I'll leave that for another day. Not too bright. Here's another one. 770163. What's the time there? Let's see here. Right. So say good morning. Well, good afternoon to Mr. Chance, to Marilyn Gordon. My usual colors. Let me see what I have here. Seems Mr. Watts isn't very liked at all. But we will see what lies the UNC will come out with going forward, right? Because that is at that point of desperation. I saw a quote from the misleader of the opposition. Let me just touch on it quickly. Just to highlight how irresponsible she is, but everybody already knows that. Where is this person? Let me get this in. Right. I'd love to share this nonsense, but anyway. From the Office of the Leader of the Opposition, this was on February 28th, right? How on earth could the government not account for $2.9 billion and try to force the Auditor General to ignore this? It is the worst form of political misconduct. The UNC is unconvinced that the biased Imbert investigation could adequately explain the missing billions of taxpayers' dollars. This is the leader of the opposition, right, who hopes to be the prime minister in a few months. How on earth could the government not account for 2.9? It was where she got 2.9 billion from. It's 2.6. But you put this in a press release and put it out, right? You can't even get the figure right. How on earth could the opposition leader, who considers herself to be the prime minister in waiting, put out this level of misinformation in the public space when she knows full well what the truth is? Because she has been the beneficiary of information directly, it seems, from the Office of the Auditor General. Whether it's coming directly from such persons or if it's coming through her attorneys, I don't know. But we know that the evidence is there that the UNC has gotten information that should be within the confines of the Auditor General's department. When it is that the Auditor General's report first came out, well, it didn't come out. We know that when the report had to be laid, before it is laid in the Parliament, there are three persons it goes to, which is the Minister of Finance, the President, and the Speaker of the House, right? And we saw where. So let me just get this. 1 second, Jen. And we saw where they were in possession of a copy of it and were reading from it. And rather than zone in and focus on the issue of the understatement, what was the first thing the UNC did? They decided to go through the report and talk about other things and that were just, this issue about the 26,000 US that the Ministry of Trade had spent and all of that. Rather than focus on, show us where the report says money missing. The easiest way to characterize that whole thing, government say we earned 64 billion, Auditor General say no, it's only 61. So basic, and Munilal, when this matter first came to the fore, Munilal came on and he said, they're trying to cook the books. They're trying to cook the books. They're falsifying information and saying they make 64 billion in revenue when it's only 61 because they're trying to make it look like the economy performing and that the economy is doing so well under them. He never said anything about any money thief, any money missing. But he addressed that briefly and then went on to speak about other things because they realized, hey, the truth, the truth is it's not really that enticing. So let us look for other things that the Auditor General spoke about in her report that we could rile up the people. And in the first instance, remember that was the focus on this we can't get 200 US in the bank. When you go in the bank and you're traveling, you can't get 200 US, but the ministry spent 26,000 US to buy some hand scanners or something, and from a bogus company, and they lost 26,000 US. That was the focus. That's what they were talking about. All of a sudden now, the leader of the opposition come in to fool people. And Mr. Manning used to say, show me a liar and I will show you a thief. Show me a liar and I will show you a thief. She's lying about even the figures. You can, if you're going to put out a press release that you have no problem being attributed to you, at least get that correct now. If you're going to lie on the government, at least get that correct. 2.9 billion. Where you get that from? The two figures that were in the public space, 2.6, 3.3. Right? There was the 2.6 billion that had to do with the issue with the central bank and the 700 and something $million that had to do with those VAT refunds and income tax refunds that were issued in 2022 for payment but presented in 2023. Right? So those two issues were treated with, and Prasad Bisesa is well aware of that. Because if she is saying that the Minister of Finance is lying with respect to what he has put out, then all she has to do is to come to Parliament and move a motion of privilege and say that the minister lied and he misled the House. We are in March. Okay? Almost 1 year later, and you have not come, you haven't brought a privilege motion against the minister. You haven't brought a no confidence motion against the minister to say that he lied and all of that and so on. Nothing of the sort. But you see, they know the waterfront ilk don't understand these things and how these things work. In the whole year, almost entire year, every month they have something called Private Members Day, where the opposition has the facility to talk about anything that they want and the speaker cannot object. Any issue, any topic, that is their day to bring any topic and talk about it. Not once have they used Private Members Day to address this issue of the understatement. Because you know why? They know they have nothing. They know the truth. But they know this has resonated with the fully dunce. And I keep saying this election is going to be between the electorate and the illiterate. And they know this resonates with the illiterate. And no matter how you try to explain it to them, they just don't want to hear the truth. So they will hold on to this because they need things to keep them upset, to satisfy their conscience when they go to the polls, to feel okay that I don't want to vote for the PNM and I need to vote for the UNC. But no matter how you explain it, there is no money missing. There was never any money missing. And I keep saying, if this government wanted to steal money, the UNC handed them opportunities on a platinum platter when they came in. All these mega projects that the UNC budget was significant that this administration would have retendered and done for significantly less. There was many opportunities for them to thief. Who the hell steals $2.6 billion and then you go and you tell, yeah, when you realize the Auditor General and pick up on it, you say, but wait, now I thief this money and the Auditor General, and then you call the Auditor General to say, well, I thief 2.6 billion, but I realize you didn't pick up on it. So I just wanted to let you know now. And I would like you to send your auditors to come to the Ministry of Finance Department, so that you could do over the audit so that we could show you how we stole the money, but you didn't pick up on it. So we would like you to realize and pick up and put it in the report that we stole $2.6 billion. That is UNC logic, also known as donkey logic. So the minister stole 2.6 and then when realized that he didn't get caught, decided that he wanted to tell the Auditor General, you didn't realize I thieved 2.6 billion, but I want to tell you so you could put it in the report so that the whole nation could know I stole 2.6 billion. If Dotish was our party. Jenny.
Or spread misinformation because sometimes other people also thinking the same thing, and when you play it up, the person able to say, okay, that's how it is. So Mr. Rodney Smith, who is on the chat, I think he doesn't understand that the political leader of a political party is different than the prime minister of a country. So yes, Dr. Rowley could be the political leader of the People's National Movement, and somebody else from the PNM be the prime minister, because it's two different constitutions. And what Dr. Rowley did, it is in the constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. That is what he would have used and utilized when he would have selected based on the support by the members of Parliament, their support for Minister Stuart Young. That is in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. And when those names are sent to the president, so that the president will see that the person who the prime minister put forward, Dr. Rowley, which is Minister Stuart Young, he commands the support of his peers in the parliament, he will be accepted to go forward as the prime minister and take the PNM into election. The political leader, there is a constitution of the PNM that treats with that. So don't mix up political party and the party that is in government right now, the PNM. Two different things. But again, you could tell people as much as you want, and if they are determined not to listen, they will continue. But for others who didn't understand, I just think it was right to put that there. Especially as Dr. Rowley on the 16th, it is said, is when he is going to formally resign as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, not as the political leader of the PNM, because the elections, internal elections for the PNM political party is due next year. That is something totally different. That is not a national issue. That is an internal issue. And as for where the money gone, the money that never went anywhere. The money is there, but due to a miscalculation and
Okay, I don't know what's happening there. So, I don't know what is happening with this thing. Jen, 1 second. I don't know what is going on. Yeah, hold on 1 sec. Yeah, Jenny, go ahead. Hello? Jenny? Okay, I don't know what is happening with this thing here. Let me try this again. Yeah, Jenny. Hello?
yeah, Dominic.
Yeah, Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I was saying, no money is missing. So Roddy, so they asked me answer the question. No money is missing. But when they were doing up the finances, it has nothing to do with the Minister of Finance. He don't deal with that. There are technocrats in his ministry, and there are technocrats in the other ministries who do that. When they were doing the tabulation, there's a new checking system at the central bank that would have created some type of confusion in tabulating whatever, and that is how the error emanated from. So money has not been missing, and those things happen all over the world. That is not coming in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's not considered fraud or thieving. In one state in America, $3 billion. They didn't realize it was an understatement for some years because of some checking system. Even in the Pentagon, there was a overstatement, I think about $3 million in weaponry and things for, if I'm not mistaken, for Ukraine. And then when they went back over, their country realized it was an overestimation. So it means to say they had more money now to spend. So those things happen. That is not anything untoward. But again, if your head hardened and you want to believe what you want to believe, no matter what we say, you will believe it. But it's good to always go it over, because it may have somebody who ready to take in the real information and say, oh, okay, yes, great, I'm happy that they explained it to me. So I move on quickly. People tomorrow who are public officers, if you know any public officers, those who are PSA members, go out in your numbers tomorrow, the 10th of March. You have 2 hours off. You have been given that legally by the CPO. So the circular is out. You have permission to go and take your hours to vote. Go out and vote resoundingly for the PSA United Sentinel. It's in red. They have the shield is the symbol. That team is headed by Nixon Kalinda. Vote for all 13 people. Don't mix and match nothing. Vote for 13 people. And I'll tell you why I'm promoting this team. Simply because the incumbent, their name is sacrosanct. They have been there for years and have not advanced the cause of public officers in any way. They have not been representing us. They have not been winning cases first. They don't have anybody skilled to deal with our grievances. And we are still on 2013 salaries in 2025. They do not have the skill or the experience to do anything. In fact, they are going around and telling people to vote for UNC. As for Oral Sanders and his team, United Public Officers, Oral Sanders is no longer a part of the bargaining unit, his category of workers for the PSA. He has a new union now that is headed by, so why is he in PSA election when PSA can't even represent him? So that writes him out and his whole team are incompetent out of this thing. So the only eligible team with the experience who has been doing the work, because Mr. Kalina right now is representing PSA members in industrial court. But he's given the permission to me because he's not an executive member, he's not a part of the General Council Conference. So he had to get permission because the worker did not want Felicia Thomas and them to deal with her matter. So he had to write to a PSA and they give him the permission. Would they give him permission if he didn't have the experience, the ability to do the work? So right now he's representing PSA members in industrial court. That is not what we want. He has represented members in front of the Equal Opportunity Commission. He has represented members in tribunal. He has been doing negotiations for private companies for years since he has been out of the PSA in the executive. So it's not what we want in the PSA. And that's what we need. To do anything else, I'm telling people, is to make PSA just simply no longer exist. So if all I want to make sure we have a team in there who will represent public officers 100%, fight for our rights against those management and employers who are wicked to public officers, the only choice is PSA United Sentinels. That's the most I could say. To do anything else, by Wednesday morning, I drop it on PSA and I don't adapt because it means PSA ain't going nowhere and we have nothing to get, no way, nothing to happen to us. So that I just want to put out there. So go to all the numbers tomorrow who are PSA members, walk with your ID card, your driver's permit, go to the polls. I've posted the areas for voting on my page. I've put up other information. Please access it and vote wisely. Thank you, Dominic, for this on-page segment on your show.
Thanks, Jen. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Hello.
Dominic,
Oh, Lord.
what's going on?
All is well.
Look here, boy.
Who phone you calling me from?
Since good afternoon, I hope you're doing well.
Who phone you calling me from? Who is Freddie?
Hey, Dominic, I hear Churchill all over the place begging for vote.
Really?
You want people vote for him.
Okay.
But you know, people in the PNM don't like him at all. People don't like Stuart Young.
Really? Okay.
So you can beg how much you want.
Okay.
Hey, Dominic. Remember I told you how Dr. Rowley stood up on a platform and talked about matters of national security? I told you one. Let me tell you the next one. You remember the DSS situation, Dominic? When Dr. Rowley went on that platform and talked about inviting investigators from here, investigators from there. Only anything but that investigation, Dominic?
Well,
Dominic,
isn't that in the hands of the police?
Dr. Rowley said on that platform, let me tell you something I never talk about yet. But some man went up in the airport to cut wires in a plane. A man went up in the airport to cut wires in a plane. Matters of national security, and you're going to run in your mouth on a platform. I just tell them, Dr. Rowley do not know what is protocol. He do not know what is diplomacy. I can't wait to see the back of the both of them. Only don't vote for Sturgeon, you know, because I ain't tell you the big one yet. Dominic, I will leave it there for now.
Okay. Where does come from with these things? Where does come from with these things? How about a man went up on a plane and okay, I never hear about that. What is that about? Anyway. Boy. Maybe one of these days you'll tell us if Dr. Rowley stole your white fowl. Eric, go easy, yeah? I only have a few minutes left. Go easy. I only have a few minutes left. Go easy.
It's only because I have respect for you and your platform, because I was going to level some explosive behind the LDVD. How he know? How that old thing back, right? Who don't guys have stand up in the mouth properly, right? Come to talk us that foolishness and say, oh, Minister Young begging for votes. Look this over the evening, eh? Dominic, because I respect for your thing, you know, and the platform, you know. Because them so there's irritated spirit, boy. You come, make your contribution and go your bloody way. You just come out to talk about that foolishness about who you're seeing plane. You sure your wife, you see any plane with Dr. Rowley? You sure is she see the plane? Hey, you're coming to talk about that damn BS on the platform every friggin' Sunday. Every day is the same thing with you. Big old thing, but like you, leave it there. Make the contributions as a valuable element for the younger people like myself and other people, so we're able to understand where we are as a nation. Every single time you call for the program, it's always Dr. Rowley, Dr. Rowley, Dr. Rowley. You can't tell me the old thing but that I cannot vote. You can't tell me who to vote for. I am going to vote for Minister Stuart Richard Young. Whether you like it or you didn't like it, the old thing but leave it there. I will be supporting Minister Stuart Young going forward in the People's National Movement. I am not voting for Kamala. I am not voting for Makeda Pandey. I am not voting for Philip. I am not voting for Gary Griffith. I am voting for Minister Stuart Richard Young. And I'm making that bodily clear, leave it there, aka Dingbat. But slowly now, please, I try to be respectful in the money program. Doctor, listening.
Thank you, sir. Let me play something here quickly for, what is the person's name? Rodney Smith. Let's know. Let's get this here. Right. So I'm seeing Mr. Smith is asking a question here. He says, so why are we having an election in a kingdom? Imagine Rowley is leader of the PNM and not the prime minister. Lol. Where else in the world does this happen? Help me. All right, that's not. Brian, give me 1 second. Let me just play this quickly. Oh, man. To answer that question. Gosh. See this nonsense. Right. Let me get this here. Supposed to know that. Come on, man.
I don't know who.
Oh my life, come on. Where is this? Where is it? Right.
Party's going to be picking a new leader. Liberal Party's going to be picking a new leader over the weekend. But when is it going to be your last official day as Prime Minister?
That will be up to a conversation between the new leader and myself to figure out how long a transition is needed. It should happen reasonably quickly, but there's a lot of things to do in a transition like this, particularly at this complicated time in the world.
Liberal Party is going to be picking a new leader over the weekend, but when is it going to be your last official day as Prime Minister?
That will be up to a conversation between the new leader and myself to figure out how long a transition is needed. It should happen reasonably quickly, but there's a lot of things to do in a transition like this, particularly at this complicated time in the world.
So to answer Mr. Smith's question, where else in the world does this happen? Help me. I hope I just helped you. All right, because the Liberal Party in Canada was supposed to pick a leader, I think, over this weekend here, right? And Mr. Trudeau remains Prime Minister. And he cannot give a date as to when he is going to step down as Prime Minister. As he said, that will depend on a discussion between himself and the new leader, and there are a number of things to take into consideration. In fact, I would have seen on MSNBC, where as a result of this trade war between the US and Canada, that Justin Trudeau's popularity has gone through the roof because of the way that he has handled the situation between himself and Donald Trump. Gone through the roof. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, they said that based on polling, his party's chances of winning the election in Canada was less than 1%. Now it has gone up to 37% chance of them winning, which puts them more or less on par with the other party. So Mr. Trudeau's popularity, he has said he is going to step down. He remains Prime Minister, but they're picking a new leader. They would have done so, I think, yesterday or so. I haven't seen it announced. So if a new leader has been picked, it means that in Canada, the political leader of the party would be separate and different from the Prime Minister. So as you're asking, where else in the world does it happen? Canada. You don't need to look that far. So when you're all trying to make it seem as though Dr. Rowley Tingan, the fact of the matter is, Dr. Rowley, the man has decided, look, I'm ready to step down as Prime Minister. Okay? But there is a process to pick a leader. You have to have an internal election to pick a leader. Dr. Rowley was elected in 2022 to be the political leader of the PNM until 2026. It's a 4-year term. So he still has the rest of this year and next year, December next year, which would make it 4 years. However, he did mention that the party would go to special convention on the 28th of September with a view to choosing a new political leader. What is the issue? Should we be fighting an internal election in a general election year to be putting up those resources? And if, as you all are saying, that Stuart Young is so unpopular and so on, and he intends to contest that position, and whoever else, these are the things that could cause fracture in a party, which is what you do not need in a general election year. The fact of the matter is there are those who support Stuart Young and there are those who support other persons who have aspirations to become the leader of the PNM. The PNM is a party. It's an institution. We understand structure. We saw the UNC internal election last year, how that turned out. The nastiness and the infighting. And the fact of the matter is that if you have multiple persons who are contesting the leadership, especially persons who are prominent in the party now, and who may have aspirations, you do not need that type of thing taking place. After the general election, fine. And people seem to not understand how a prime minister is chosen. The convention has been that the political leader of the party would be the prime minister. As understood, that is. But the 1976 Constitution, Republican Constitution, would have been amended, or the 1962 Constitution was amended in 76, right? So that is not a requirement. At the end of the day, the process, how the prime minister is chosen, that's why the Constitution says the person who can command the majority support in the lower house is the person who would be the prime minister. The person who commands the support of the majority of representatives in the lower house. It doesn't say the person who is the political leader of the party that won the most seats in the election. It does not say that. So even if it is the party wins at the end of the day, if you have a situation, and that is why when you have a motion of no confidence that is called in the prime minister, as was the claim that was going around in 2010 that there was going to be the UNC was going to call a motion of no confidence in Mr. Manning, and that there were members of the PNM who didn't support Mr. Manning and who would have voted with the UNC to oust Mr. Manning because it would have shown that he did not have the command he could not command the support of the majority of members in the House. So even after an election, even if, let's say, Stuart Young leads the PNM into the general election and the PNM wins, all right, at the end of the day, it is the members who were elected on the PNM side who will make the decision as to who will be prime minister. It's not an automatic thing. The president has to invite the person who commands the support of the majority of members. And if the PNM wins 22 seats and the UNC wins 19 seats, then the PNM commands the majority seats. But it's who on the PNM bench can command the support of the majority of persons on the PNM side. That is how it works. So it is not a foregone conclusion that if Stuart Young were to take the party into the general election, as he will be doing, and the PNM wins, that he would be automatically become the prime minister. It is those members who win their seats on the PNM side who would have to come together and say, well, okay, who are we supporting? Are we supporting Minister Young to continue as prime minister, or are we supporting somebody else? That is how the Constitution puts it in place. That is how it's supposed to happen, especially in this circumstance, right? And it would make sense that if it is that the convention is supposed to take place after the general election, then when the party goes to the polls, if it is that Mr. Young throws his hat in the ring and he wins, then what are you all going to say? And he wins leadership. Then what are you all who are there cussing and Young and this and Young that and whatnot and Dr. Rowley do this and what are you all going to say? You're vexed? When the membership, some of you all who complain are not even members of the PNM. And I keep telling you all, membership in the PNM is not going to the polls and dipping your finger in the ink and supporting the PNM. That does not make you a member. You have to fill out an application form, which has to go before the general, the central executive or whatever it is they call them. And they have to vet these forms and then make a decision to accept you as a member. And you pay your dues, and therefore you are a member entitled to vote when the internal election comes about. But plenty of you all who are out there all over social media bad-mouthing the party and bad-mouthing Dr. Rowley and criticizing Stuart Young, you cannot even vote in the internal election because you are not members of the party. But you all are talking the loudest and have the most vocal opinion. And when that time comes to select a leader, you cannot participate in the process because you're too lazy to engage the process to become a member of the party. So if you don't want to do that, well, then keep quiet. Last by I'm gonna get this here. 1 second. Brian, I'm gonna just switch this thing here. Brian.
Good afternoon to you, Dominic.
Yes, sir. Greetings.
Dominic, how many times you will come and repeat that?
I don't know. I really don't know.
You see, Dominic, if you notice, there are those people who oppose the PNM will want to come and make bacchanal as if they plain notice and they don't understand how the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago works. They don't have to understand how the PNM Constitution works. But they understand very good if they want to, because you keep repeating it all the time ad nauseam. And therefore, they have a problem with Dr. Rowley first, they have a problem with Stuart Young. How come they have no problem with all of the other leaders of the other political parties? The PNM has been upfront with Trinidad and Tobago, and we have declared our 41 candidates. I don't see nobody running to ask the UNC, how come you only declare 8 or 9 or 10 so far? What about the rest? If you say you have already done your due diligence and all of that, why you don't declare them? You know why? Because they have bacchanal there. They won't ask Kamala Kosabi these questions. It was the PNM had said, okay, we have completed our due diligence and we have selected our 41 candidates. The papers, the media would have been running them down to find out who is the 41. Running them down. But they are running down the UNC. Why? Huh? Why are they running down the other parties? I have nothing to say about them. But you see, we have to be careful. Because if we forget our past, with these people, we are going to be doomed to repeat it, and it is going to be worse. I keep saying, look at what is happening in the United States today. Donald Trump is in office a mere 7 weeks. And in every state, including, I'm going to use the words that they use, extremely red states, there's protests. Because people are losing their jobs. They fired 80,000 DA workers, and they don't know what to fire them for. They fired people who doing from NOAA, who doing what you call it, the weather forecast and so on. Who gonna do it? They even fired people who are air traffic controllers. That's why planes dropping out of the sky. Because they recognize 7 weeks down the road, they made a mistake, and because they forgot what happened when he was there for the first 4 years. We must not forget what happened between 2010 and 2015. Because it will be just as worse, or even, I'm telling you, it'll be even the worst thing ever happened to this country. Because this woman is an angry woman. Every time she speaks, it's out of anger and revenge. Because she did not want Dr. Rowley and the PNM asking questions about certain people in her party. Why doesn't she announce them? But I am waiting, because if they're saying that they couldn't put Anil Roberts because he is carrying too much baggage, I am waiting to see if David Lee and Rural Monilal will be selected again, because their baggage is heavier than Stuart Young. Because they have questions to answer before the courts. And the Roberts still being investigated, or is it maybe it's done? I don't know. But at the end of the day, they have questions to answer before the court. One is out on $1 million bail. So I am waiting to see with bated breath whether or not they will be selected as for which seat. So Mr. Watts could go up for Lauketa Talpara and say whatever it is, but it is irrelevant to me. Because the work done by Foster Cummins in that particular area over the last 9 years has been phenomenal, and the people know that. They know, they're aware, they're seeing it, they could touch it, they could feel it. Because from day one, he has been extremely active in that area. See, Mr. Watts have issues. And all of a sudden, he switches across to the UNC, and the UNC put him up. It's because the UNC had nobody else to put up except maybe perhaps Geraldine John, and they didn't want to take that chance again. Maybe they're looking to give her a safe seat, I don't know. So to take up anybody, go up the street and put him there. How long Mr. Watts is a member of the UNC? Why are you asking these questions? But we will see. But Dominic, on Thursday, I didn't get your show on Thursday, but I played it back and I listened to it way down to the end. And you said something that disturbed me. And I thought about it. I think Jenny commented on it. With respect to the investigation, nobody is talking about any investigation into the Auditor General's department. And if $2.6 billion could be missing and she could not pick up with it to report it first before the budget department of the Ministry of Finance, I believe it was.
Yes.
And $2.6 billion missing. I mean, that's not small money. That's not 5 cents. That's not $500,000. That's $2.6 billion. What Kamala Pastan says I'm holding on to, and she has nothing else to hold on to, although she knows the truth. Because as you rightly said, if it was really stolen, and she reported it to the police, and she sent a letter off to the DPP, for the head of special branch, or the acting top cop, has she done anything like that? And again, as you rightly said, has she put it to the Providence Committee of the Parliament? No, nothing of the sort. But she will write that into Lord knows when, because she has people who will continue to believe it and who ask her any questions. Why are you doing that? What evidence do you have? Let us see your evidence. Have we taken it to the police? No questions like that. But they will print garbage that comes out of our mouth, because that is all they can do, because they want the help for two to win. Understand? And that is a fear that we have to understand as a reality, because if it is, that department is not functioning the way it ought to. If I see exactly what you saw, because if the UNC should get back into office and declare profits and so on, and next thing you know, expenditure is 75 trillion. With they have got make profits of how many millions or billions, I should say. Will then be in real trouble? If we don't have an auditing department to pick it up, we will never know it's missing. I'm not saying they will do that. I am not saying. I'm saying it could happen. It is a thought. And we must ask ourselves if this Auditor General Department is functioning with the efficiency it is supposed to function with. And if it is that they want the Finance Ministry or the Department or the Governor General Department to be examined because they believe that there are issues there, well, it is as broad as it is wide. And that the Auditor General Department should be investigated as well with independent bodies. I have no problem with that. But she does not want to be asked any questions. And that is a fear that we must all understand. That if we fail to vote, like what happened in the United States, where they have indicated that millions of people decided not to vote because there was a female going up against Donald Trump. And today they are paying the ultimate price for it. Then only will understand where barley grow. Because it could happen in Trinidad and Tobago. You will want to know what is going on with your job. You'll want to know how come the IMF is already here and what is going on. I thought we had money. I thought everything was good. It happened in Sri Lanka, people, when everything was being reported as going very, very well, and then all of a sudden, the president, prime minister, and the finance minister left the country in jets because they were bankrupt, and they didn't recognize it until those people or those leaders were out of the country, and the IMF stepped in, and they are now under a heavy IMF program. Because there's no money to pay the external bills and internal bills. We have to understand these things. That is why many other countries are under IMF programs for years. Dr. Rowley kept us out of that. And look at the money being made by the financial institutions, even though they pay 30 and 35% interest. Taxes, sorry. The UNC did absolutely nothing on the East-West corridor when they were there. They did nothing in San Fernando when they were there. They took the ideas of Patrick Manning and put it in Cuba. That is the cycling velodrome and the international pool. But they did absolutely, they left everything to rotten down. Brian Lara Cricket Academy was rotting down. He didn't even want his name on it when he saw it in late 2015 after the election. And Dr. Rowley begged him to say, no, don't remove your name, we will fix this. Why it is we not understanding that these people are a clear and present danger to us. And all of these sideshows by people like living there who have, don't worry with him, don't worry with him. Because all he can come and say is, don't vote for this one and don't vote for Rowley and don't vote for somebody. He has no evidence of anything. So he throws out things there, over it to stick. Wasting time coming on a program every Sunday. That's why he's on no other program. Because he cannot go there without stupidness. But we're lucky Dominic's heart gives him a little 2 minutes. of energy, a waste of human space. But at the end of the day, we have to do what we have to do and understand our assignment. Because yes, that is what it is. It is an assignment. Half hour out of the rest of your life to go and do what is right and forget those other parties. Because I will tell you all this, if NTA and Hopeless get some seats and UNC get some seats, they will amalgamate themselves against the PNM, because all of them were once members of the UNC, except maybe for Karen Nunes Teixeira. But all of them at one time or another was either with the partnership or with the UNC. And you must ask yourself this question: if they have the ability, with the amount of seats that they may have won, to form another coalition, what do you think that we do? Their objective is to remove the PNM so that they can get their hands on the treasury. And they said all along, Philip Edward Alexander just last year was saying he has no interest in office. He's only interested in removing the PNM. But today, he's talking about when he gets into office. They lie as every woman's fancy because they cannot stick to what they are saying, because they never ever speak the truth. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar has not offered one iota of how she's going to raise revenue for Trinidad and Tobago to take us further into a better life for our children and our grandchildren. Not once has she indicated how she's going to do it. The refinery is about to reopen. She says, no, let us use local entities. Who has deep pockets like that in Trinidad and Tobago? She's not telling you. What is Roche doing there? What is his purpose? What is he offering the UNC? African votes? You must ask yourself these questions. What have they been offered by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar? Ask yourself these questions, and whatever answers they could come up with, I can promise you, it ain't gonna be no good. Because these people offer absolutely nothing. They have never been in any type of office to say that they make a lot of money. Nobody knows how much money the OWTU has. Patriotic Energies is bankrupt. So what are they going to do? They're a union. And they want to get into office, government, to do what? What have they been promised by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar in order to get votes? Because that's all she cares about, is votes. So while Libera talking about Shorter running around begging, who begging more than Kamala Prasad-Bissessar for votes? Who's she talking to more? That is what you call begging and pleading and being anxious, because she understands that when she loses this time, that's it for her. And she won't be able to help those who have cases before the court. For Trinidad and Tobago, once they can't answer questions like $800 million that's missing for housing by KPMC that they can't find, once they can't answer questions for buildings that they pay rent for that don't exist in Barataria, once they can't answer questions for the $23 billion on the exchequer overdraft and where it's gone, that Danny Sharma had to recoil in horror when he saw it in the Joint Select Committee. I watched them on television. Once they can't explain these things, well, they're going to put them back. Do what, to take more, to borrow and keep, and help the friends? Or you're going to go for a steady, stable organization like the People's National Movement and going to take us positively into the future? Look at the money the banks making, these same banks. Look at the monies. Look at the businesses opening up all over the country. Just look at it and you will see for yourself. And Dominique said, take a drive and look at it. Because of Port of Spain was between 2010 and 2015, it was a shameful sight. The amount of rubbish that got out of the president's house, the amount of tons of rubbish left there by the US because they didn't care about the set up. What plans they have? Except to take your money from the Unit Trust Corporation and NIB. Wherever else they could borrow and thief. Because that is what they are and that is what they do and that will not change. So don't be fooled. You know what you have to do when that time comes. We look forward to this week when Dr. Rollins will open that new wing of the hospital and also when he opens the Tobago Airport. And as he takes his seat in the sunset, you listen to Stuart Young, the new Prime Minister, who's going to lead us into the future. Do not be fooled, people. Don't waste your vote. Because you can live to regret it like in the United States. Dominic, I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Jenny. Hello?
Yeah, Dominic, just quickly, case in point. You hear me?
Yeah.
Listen up. America would have fallen for President Trump and the things that he's been saying, the hype and all that. Every single day in America, thousands of people marching. They regret they vote for him. They wish they'd vote for Kamala Harris and the Democrats. They're all over social media saying they regret voting for him. The farmers and them regretting it because the migrants and they who usually pick the fruits of the trees and they harvest, they ain't finding none because they're afraid they get picked up by ice. So the fruits are rotting on the trees, falling on the ground. So don't be surprised if a couple of months later on you hear oranges expensive, apples expensive, fruit expensive. Right now the farmers and them regretting it. They're coming out and they're talking. That's how America turn up. And how long has President Trump been in office? About a month or something? Or 2 months?
Yes.
But people are now regretting it. And that is the same thing with Kamala, who seems to love the Trump styling of governance and campaigning. So that's just an example to show you. Get caught up and chain up with Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the things she said in the rhetoric. And then you'll end up just like America, marching every day, all over social media, regretting it. So let me tell you, take in front before in front taking. When people show you who they are, believe them. Kamala Persad-Bissessar showed us who she is. Jack Warner, Abdullah Roger, all who come on she party, they show us who she is. And you know the tenet of the conversation? Corruption, nepotism, kleptocracy. And it goes on and on, discrimination, racism, victimization. And all they want to tell me, despite the whoever come in, the Philip and the this one and that, all they're going to fall for that. And when the election is called, stain all their finger for UNC. Well, if that is all a choice, we will end up in turmoil, hate, more racism, disunity, confusion and bacchanal, economic decline, losing jobs all over Trinidad and Tobago. And then they're going to be marching to say, oh God, if we didn't know, we should have. So I tell it all you, don't wait for that, you know. Don't wait for that. Go out resoundingly, go to the People's National Movement. We want a 20 seat and 21 seat. We want a full maxi 25, 26 the conductor, the Prime Minister. That's what we want. So they could go in the Parliament, the PNM, as the government and continue the policies, government policies that has always been to the benefit of all citizens at Trinidad and Tobago. Because PNM is the only true national party at Trinidad and Tobago. That's why they're able to exist from 1956 to now, because they have a strong foundation. It's never been a Hindu party, a Christian party, a Baptist party, a Rasta party, a Chinese party. It has been a national party where every creed and race, whether it's Baptist, Chinese, Buddhist, is Hindu, Muslim, whoever you are, you feel welcome to be a part and know that the government will take care of you. That is a true party. So don't take the warning And then come to call what we call me answering all they call, and I don't know Ricky answering neither. Ricky answering, Mr. Chanson answering, Mr. Yateson answering, Brian answering. None of we will have nothing to say. We will just be watching all you. And all we look alone go say, we tell all you so let's deal with that. So here was 2025, People's National Movement. Minister Stuart as the Prime Minister, we go in, Stuart on the ground. And just quickly to tell, leave it there. Minister Stuart Young, since he became the Member of Parliament in 2015 in Porterstone North Centre and West, he has been working his constituency every month, 2 times a month, and if his time permits, more than that. So you don't have to be begging. What he's doing is meeting people, meeting contact, and people getting to know him. That ain't begging. Kamala Prasad Bisasa be begging. That's why she end up with the manager or some kind of thing of Minister Stuart Young. I'm not Stuart Young now. We see him, Minister Foster Cummins. That does be begging because it's scraping the barrel like when you're begging because you can't get nobody. The PNM don't have to beg. The PNM have to go out there truthfully, meet the people, talk to the people. People get to know this one, that one. That's why it is done in the PNM. So thank you to leave it there. You have to keep using your mouth. I will leave with this. You have to keep using your mouth and exercising because anytime your mouth go wrong, that's the end of your sex life. I go.
All right, so let's get this here. Final call for the afternoon. Let me get this. Just what? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear.
Good. So yesterday's Newsday carried a story where the UNC miraculously is considering its legal options with regard to Stuart Young's ascension to office of Prime Minister next week. Next week, Sunday or Monday. Well, all of that tells me one thing, that they are mortally afraid of Stuart Young taking over from Dr. Rowley and leading the party, the PNM, into a general election. Because they are brutally aware that Stuart Young has it within him for all the right reasons, not the least of which is his ethnicity, which he doesn't want to talk about right now anyway.
Yes.
But I will make mention of it because it is pertinent. And it is pertinent because he can pull everybody in this country together, including Indian middle classes. And that is what this sector is terrified about. So you're looking at your legal options. You're looking to go to court to have the court rule that Stuart Young was illegitimately or illegally installed as the new Prime Minister. Well, Kamala Bisasa, all that tells me is you are afraid, you are terrified of what Stuart Young is capable of doing and what he could pull from your party. Remember, half Stuart Young is Indian, and just remember, you could ignore it if you want. You could call them stupid, childish, all the things you want to call them. But you see, when some of your former acolytes, who are professionals, like Rabil, as a doctor, Larry Lala, a lawyer, senior counsel, Rambali, lawyer, well, all of them are pulling away from you. For me, that is an indication of a little slippage among the professional classes where your party is concerned. And that is where the Stuart Young factor comes in. They are going to be attracted and drawn to him because of his racial mixture and his decent demeanor. Unlike, well, I wouldn't go any further, Mrs. Bisasa. But if you could say that the former president is a low-level PNM functionary, well, I leave that to the professional classes to deal with you.
Thank you, sir. With that, I will take my leave, folks. Thank you for joining me today, as always. All 91 of you on Facebook and all 584 of you on YouTube. Yeah. So we will chat again on Tuesday morning, God's willing. Yeah. As I always say, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep safe on the black carpet if it is that you're going out. Kevin King says, only waiting to use black people. OWTU. Oh boy. Oh boy. You're easy, you know. For those of you who are public servants, and I think tomorrow is the election, as Jen would have mentioned, you know what to do. Yeah. Watson Duke is having his regrets having installed Mr. But he says he backdoor president, says he feels betrayed, but it is what it is. So go out and do what you need to do. Chris Hamilton says, get rid of Mad Granny once and for all this year, vote PNM. Yeah, once you all vote for the PNM this year and the PNM retains office for another term, that's it. I think the forbearance of the UNC will come to an end with respect to Prasad Bisesa. If they decide to hold on to her after that, well, oh boy, we will see. So we will chat on Tuesday morning. Folks, I will do my best to come on Tuesday. I know the last few weeks been a little hectic with campaigning, but yeah. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much.